Press start.
What TV shows have you guys watched the most times through? Like all of it.
Definitely The Office and Parks and Rec. I don't know the number,
yeah.
obviously.
The Office and How I Met Your Mother for me.
Yeah, I think The Office is up there for me. I've seen it so many times through, and then of course just random episodes that I've repeated for whatever reason they were on or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I've rewatched through Friends, especially like in the periphery when my wife rewatches it a lot. Like I'll happily sit and join her for an episode or two, even if she's like churning through the seasons, you know.
Yep.
So maybe, I don't know. I haven't kept track, but I also think King of Queens I've seen at least a couple of times. At least a couple of times through.
I need to actually watch it. I know I would enjoy it. That and Everybody Loves Raymond. I know I would enjoy those shows. I need to watch them.
Raymond's one of those shows that I really liked at the time, and we actually started. It was like a year ago. So it was not recently. We put it on. We were like, I just don't know if it's doing it for me anymore. I don't know if like our expectation for shows, because there's so many good comedies out there, like past and present. There's so many good ones. The comedy for that just wasn't hitting for us anymore. We were kind of like,
so you could say that you no longer love Raymond.
Yeah, we don't love Raymond. You know.
You should have never loved.
Please clap.
Please clap.
Please clap.
It's one of the most pathetic things ever.
It truly is. It really
is. All right, well, let's start this episode 140. We got to get through some things. We're actually going to record a spoiler cast for A Plague Tale Requiem, time permitting. I really hope we can at least have a short discussion about the story, if not a lengthy one. And so that'll be up on our YouTube channel. Make sure you go check that out. But for now, let's jump in to this episode. Dan, Derek, Jeff, myself are here. Kyle is dead, so pour one out for Kyle.
Oh, jeez.
Kyle has been stricken with a very strong case of homosexuality. I really hope he pulls through this time.
A strong case of it. It's really strong. Like he keeps trying to kiss me all the time. It's like, dude.
Who gave it to him? Who did this? Who gave it to him?
It's so bad to talk crap about the guy who's been so sick all week. Like
he's so sick.
I don't know what he's got, but it sounds like he's got cough and whatever. Like it sounds bad.
Well,
so he said he tried talking on the phone and was maybe gonna record with us, but he said even just talking a little bit on the phone, he was just hacking it up, and so he's gonna hold off.
I mean, he's one of those anti-vaxxers, you know. He didn't get the vaccination for the gayness. He didn't get the.
Gotta get that gay vax, dude.
Boy, poor guy. But you know, it's his own fault. It's his own fault for not voting. It's his own fault for not voting Democrat. Joe Biden told us if we don't vote Democrat, we're gonna all get sick. I think is what he said.
Listen, all of the 2.5 listeners, we love the gays. We're just joking. It's fine.
Some of us might even be a little gay. Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
That's not what we're here to talk about. This isn't current.
Oh, damn.
Currently gay.
Current sexual orientation podcast. Okay. Because that changes. It's fluid. It's fluid for most of us.
Fluid. I'm a sexual fluid, guys.
Oh man. Can I just tell you though, I'm wearing a sweatshirt that I dug up from the back of the closet because we're doing painting in the house, and I was just looking for something that I don't care if it gets paint on it, because we are in the process of potentially just moving across town. We're just trying to look to upgrade to a new house. The housing market, don't know how it is where you guys are. It's in a weird spot where it's kind of hard to sell.
Yes.
But buying, you can get way more house than you normally could get for your money. So it's like that's why, you know, it's the pros and cons of when the market swings one way or the other.
I feel like it's always insane, or at least for the past few years, it's been
really fast. Like you could list your house and it's sold later that day. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
And now houses are sitting for months and months, so prices are coming down. So anyway, all that to say, we have a good chance to really upgrade our home here in town. So we found a few opportunities. So we're trying to get ours ready to potentially show and try to sell. So now we're doing a lot of painting and cleaning up, and as exciting as it is, man, to look at new houses and kind of imagine being in a much better neighborhood, much better house, have my own office, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As I'm painting it in the house ready, I'm just like, this isn't worth it. Let's just stay. Like I don't want to do this. This is so much work.
Well, it's worse to have a house and then try to buy another one, right? Because it's like you have to time everything so perfectly, like selling yours and also buying one. Like,
correct. Yeah. And that actually, but we are in a market right now where we could tell sellers this is contingent on us selling our house. And there's not a lot they can do in some cases. Like there's not as much competition and so they might have to wait. But anyway, we also are considering renting our house out, but that depends on if we can get a house for cheap enough. So we could keep both. I might be a multi-house owner. If I do, then
wow.
If I am, then I'm going to be holding that over your heads for a long time. I own multiple houses, guys.
You do have 37 kids, Tim, so you need to put them somewhere.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. You got
One house for the adults, one house for the kids. That's how it's going. It's gonna
real Lord of the Flies at that other house with all the kids.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Joker. Whoever survives. There's an opening for 5 kids. We've got too many of you.
We have tryouts. Yeah.
We have tryouts. Oh man. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. That's actually been taking up a ton of my time. So like, work is very busy. I really enjoy my job and the work that I do, but it's taken up a ton of time. And then as soon as we're done with that, we're doing house hunting and house prep. And so that timing is just awful because there's so many good games out right now. But it is what it is. It's part of life. So I can't complain too much. I got a chance to finish Plague Tale. I got a chance to play a few other diddle a few little games here and there.
Yeah.
But so we'll get into some of those. I actually want to start with stuff we're watching, not just to get it out of the way, but kind of to get it out of the way. But I'm also like, there's been stuff I've been able to watch while multitasking with painting and things like that. I've been able to knock out movies and shows. And so,
awesome.
So I wanted to just catch up on a few things that I've been watching. But before we do that, let's talk about new things that are out. And some people might call this one like award bait, this Banshees of Inisherin or whatever, but I don't know how to say that, by the way.
I'm not sure either. Even when I hear them say it, it's with an Irish accent, and I'm like, okay, so
yeah, I can never say.
Is that how I say it, or is that how they say it? I don't understand.
But it's the same guy
who directed
in the same stars and director, right? Of In Bruges. Is it?
Yes, In Bruges and 7 Psychopaths and 3 Billboards. Yeah.
This movie looks great. The trailer looked awesome. I love the cast. How is it?
It's fantastic, man. It's definitely got a slower pace than the other movies that he's done. But you can kind of gather that from any of the trailers that you watch. Like it's obviously about these 2 guys, Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, who were best friends, and then suddenly Brendan Gleeson is like, we're not friends anymore. Like just one day he just decided to start ignoring him and telling him to leave him alone and stuff. So it's like you can tell from the premise alone that okay, this is gonna be a little bit slower, lower stakes, stuff like that. But this Inisherin, whatever island is like a totally fictitious island in Ireland. But it's happening during a real time where there's a civil war going on between the NRA and whoever else.
Is this set in the 90s, like during all that stuff?
1920s, I think.
Oh, this is set way back.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's during like the Irish Civil War, and you don't really. The guys on the island are totally on their own, whatever. They're their own world basically, and living their own really slow-paced lives. And a lot of people are really dumb and creepy there. There's a lot of different personalities on this island. But the Civil War aspect is very interesting because you hear cannon shots on occasion, and the characters will react to them and stuff, which I find super fascinating. I don't know. I think there's something there. But yeah, there's a ton of themes involved in this movie. I think it's more rich with themes than it is with like dialogue and jokes and stuff. Like, yes, there are some occasional dark jokes that he tends to do, like he did with In Bruges. But this is more of like a performance-oriented thing where you're kind of meant to think about what's happening and how it parallels to our world and our current landscape and how we talk to each other. And I feel like there's a lot to gather from that. So I loved it. I loved the shit out of it, if I can say that. I feel like it's one of the most relevant movies of the year. But I mean, that's my takeaway. Whereas other people don't really have that takeaway.
Is it? I thought it was getting reviewed really well. Wasn't it?
It is. It is.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that they liked it for what the movie. I feel like they liked it more for what the movie is on the surface, which is still enough. There's still enough, but I feel like there's more parallels to the subject matter of this movie to our current world and how we talk to each other and how we unfriend people over differences and stuff like that. Not just on Facebook, in real life, we quite literally are cutting people off.
Cutting family off.
Yeah, exactly. And what that can drive a person to do when they get kind of excluded from their own community and stuff. I feel like that's
the cast looks phenomenal on this too, right?
It's great, dude. Yeah. Amazing. There's 4 main players really. It's Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. Obviously, they're all over the marketing. I guess 5 if you count the dog, who's like he's in behind me.
There he is.
He's
It's
so
a border
great.
collie.
He's such a smart animal. Like some of the stuff they got him to do, I was like, man,
Dude, border collies
he's
are
so
great.
well trained.
I've seen border collies. There was this lady who was training like 10 of them at once, and she had them
Yeah.
all at the bottom of stairs. This is recent. Like they're like the smartest dogs, and she called them by name one at a time, and they all waited and went as their name was called, and the rest would just sit there. Like they're so
They
smart.
can get so trained so well, and that's
my
why
dog
they're
would never do
that's
that.
why
My
they're
dog's
sheep
just
herders
like,
and
let,
stuff.
let
you know?
me eat your face. Like my dog's crazy.
Yeah, mine too. There's also the girl who plays Colin Farrell's sister. She looks very familiar, but I don't remember her name. This is a really big standout role for her, though. She's asked to do a lot in this role, and I feel like she's going to get, like you mentioned, it's an award bait movie, so I feel like everybody in this movie is going to get nominated for something. And then what's the creepy guy's name from like Dunkirk and stuff? Crap. What else was he in?
Barry Keegan.
Yeah. He's in this too.
Isn't he Joker? Isn't he the new Joker?
Yes,
potentially?
kind of. I guess. Yeah, he's We'll see where
he's the deleted scene Joker. We'll see.
He's
if
deleted
he's
scene Joker, basically.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
It's deleted scene. Shut up, Dave.
Deleted scene. It's not canon yet.
You can't say canon seriously. I appreciate you doing that.
He plays in this. He plays just a dim-witted, like really. He is like the town dumbass, basically, and he is so creepy sometimes, but he means well. He's just like obnoxious to everybody. Most of the humor comes from people interacting with him. Yeah, it's really good though. Just a little on the slower side. Just kind of adjust your expectations. It's not going to be rapid fire funny like in Bruges was, or even Seven Psychopaths, or some of Three Billboards. It's just, it's a different kind of movie. It's really good though.
I'm excited to see it. So let me know when you see it streaming somewhere, because I do want to watch it.
Should come to Hulu. It's a Fox movie, Searchlight movie. So
yeah, and it doesn't seem like the kind of movie that needs to hang out in theaters too long. So hopefully it'll
It's not going to make that much money, no.
Hopefully it'll hit streaming before too long.
Yeah.
Another one that looks interesting, I think this is on Hulu, right? Is the Weird Al Yankovic Story, or no?
Oh, no, this is on the Roku channel. Apparently they have a channel, guys. But if you have a Roku, it's free. Just
okay.
You can watch whatever content is on there for free. They do have some paid content, but they're exclusive content.
I had no idea they had exclusive content, to be honest.
Yeah, they I remember Reno 911. Remember Quibi? So Reno 911 was brought back for Quibi, and then Quibi collapsed, and Roku said, we'll take the rest of their new season. And so Reno 911 was able to shoot their new season and put it on Roku for for free, basically. Like, it's all there for you.
Nice.
I think there might be some ads, but I think they're really short. But as far as weird goes, this is the Al Yankovic Story. This is probably, I don't know. I mean, I think Banshees is probably my favorite movie I watched that's new, but I mean, I have no notes, like no criticisms, because this is just one of the most perfect comedies.
Because it's meant to be a comedy, right? It's not meant to be a true biopic or whatever.
No, okay. It's so dumb. And
so
they make up.
Is it like the Dewey Cox story or whatever? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But even more like meta and aware of things. Like,
and Weird Al's involved with this somehow, right?
Yes,
wasn't
he is. Yeah, he's in it. He plays a record executive. One of the ones that is like just stereotypical music biopic, right? Record executives who's like, that'll never sell and stuff like that, and shooting down ideas. It's so funny.
He probably had fun playing a villain in his own movie, huh? In his own story.
There's apparently that character is based on somebody he played before in a Funny or Die sketch, and then they just kind of expanded on that in this movie. I mean, this movie is a Funny or Die production, apparently. So I haven't watched anything before this movie about Weird Al, except for a few things that he's been in before. But like, I'm not a huge fan of, it's not like I dislike him. I'm just not a huge fan. I think Kyle's a big fan of him. But there's like characters that are from Weird Al's, like, I don't know what you call it, backstory or something.
Yeah.
Previous movies that he included in this movie is
the Weird Al lore.
Yeah, the Weird Al lore.
Yeah.
There is Weird Al lore.
There is Weird Al lore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like in this movie, he's hooking up with Madonna, who's played by Evan Rachel Wood.
Stop it.
And she has such a wild.
Did that actually happen?
No.
Okay.
In real life, they had one interaction at a Video Music Awards, I think, an MTV award show, and she was like, "Oh, didn't you do a parody of Like a Virgin?" And he was like, "Yeah," and that was it. That was the extent of their interaction in real life.
Got it.
But in the movie, they're like a couple and she's like corrupting him, and then she takes over a cartel. It's a whole thing.
Dude,
So
Weird Al is legit weird. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's just a weirdo, and he just like messes with like his what was it, Coolio? Remember he did his version of one of Coolio's songs.
Amish Paradise.
Yeah, and Coolio was pissed. I think Michael Jackson was pissed when he did Eat It.
Yeah, Eat It. He got I don't think Coolio was mad. He got a permission. Apparently, the only song he didn't get permission to parody was Beat It.
Okay, so it's Beat It. No,
yeah,
I
this
swear
song
Coolio was also cranky.
I forgot about Eat It. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny. The movie proposes that he came up with Eat It before Beat It came out. It's so funny.
Okay.
And they even
I still want to say that his version of the Star Wars saga song that's for Bye Bye Miss American Pie, I still think that's one of the greatest parodies, and it actually tells the Star Wars story. Have you guys listened? You could listen to that.
I don't think I've heard that in a while.
Where he's like, "Bye, my, this here Anakin guy, maybe Vader someday later."
Yes, I remember now.
See, my
man. It's
my wife is literally in the other room, and she heard me say about Coolio, and she's like, "Yes, Coolio was definitely cranky." So confirmed, Coolio was cranky.
Coolio was definitely cranky. The Eat It thing was hilarious too, because there were like characters are in the scene going back and forth. Like I think Fred Armisen was it Fred Armisen or somebody like him, like Will Forte? It was an ex SNL guy who was like, "So this is totally your idea, Eat It. It's an original song." And he's like, "Yep, totally came up with it myself off the top of my head." "Really? So it's yours. It's your," like they're just going back and forth selling it as an original idea. It's so stupid.
I'm gonna have to watch this. This sounds
And then there's
funny.
a part like earlier on where like his dad is anti accordion, which is a weird stance to take, but he has like it's like that music biopic cliche of the oppressive parents, or I should say the oppressive dad, but the mom is supportive. And there's an accordion salesman that comes to their house, played by Tom Lennon, and he gets beat up by the dad so violently. Like he gets like, it's so hilarious. And he's like on the floor like, "Oh, I have a collapsed lung." And it's sorry. And Weird Al is talking to his mom, and they're having a heart-to-heart, and he's making all these noises on the floor, and she goes, "I'm trying to talk with my son." It's so funny.
Dude, even a
He's
biopic
like
or a
gargling up
biopic.
blood. It's so freaking funny.
Even as a biopic, you can't just take it seriously, huh?
No. There's nothing in it that I think is legit at all. But I think that's what makes it so freaking funny and perfect.
Sure. Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes too that really sold me on the movie, and this is like in the first 15 minutes really, is when they go to a party when he's young. He goes to a party with his friends, and it's a polka party, and he's like,
Sure.
guys, no, I can't be here. My parents will kill me if they find out I'm here. And like, and then it's like, "Oh shit, the cops are coming, guys. We gotta disperse." It's so funny, dude. I'm like, oh my
At
god.
the polka party.
Yes. So they take every music biopic, like Bohemian Rhapsody type cliche,
Yep.
Mhm.
and make it mold it into a Weird Al story. It's so stupid. I loved it.
It's very Weird Al.
Yeah,
very.
That checks
And
out. That checks out.
Very strange for it to be. I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean, I know Roku's a very popular device to use for streaming, but it's weird that it's trapped to that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll extend at some point to a normal streaming service, but anyway.
And you can watch it on. You don't have to have a Roku, I guess. For
You just have to have the app.
Yeah, you have to have like a login, I guess, and a registered Roku. But you can watch it on a browser too if you want to.
Okay. The other movie that actually we're probably going to watch soon, because we thought the first one was charming and fun, you know, in its own way, was Enola Holmes. This is if you watch Stranger Things, she's the character 11.
Yes, yeah.
And Millie Bobby Brown is actually a really good actress. Like she is so charming and so like she is very captivating when she's on screen, both as 11 in Stranger Things. But we thought that in Enola Holmes, she was really funny, and she keeps winking at the camera, and it's just kind of it's a fun family take on the Sherlock Holmes type of story. So the second one looks like a lot more of the same. How is it? Is it fun?
I think it was better than the first one,
nice.
And I felt the same way you did, where I was like, yeah, there's a lot of charm here and stuff like that. I mean, it's not like it was anything I hadn't seen.
I don't remember the story, but it was fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and
it's the same thing here, where you're not going to be like, "Oh, I remember the case" or whatever. I feel like you'll remember this one a little more than the first one for sure. Like, there's definitely interesting things that happen in the story that kept me engaged, and I like Henry Cavill as Sherlock. I feel like that's
this is why he left The Witcher. Dang it!
Yeah, that's why he was like, I want to be Sherlock more, guys.
I want to be Sherlock as a side character. And
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What the hell
And
was I
they
gonna say? I was trying to think of what Millie Bobby, because it's like, yeah, in 11 she's like, because she hasn't fully developed, because obviously of like what her character situation's been in, so she's
Right.
like a young kid still, even as she's getting older. And I was trying to think, like, what has she been in where she's just kind of like not like that? It's like, oh yeah, the only other thing I've seen is like the Godzilla movies, the couple of Godzilla movies that she's in.
Yeah.
So this one sounds like she's even more like, has more of a personality. So I've just never seen her like that. You know?
This feels more like
there's a
she's being
Deadpool
herself.
aspect.
I don't know if she's being herself, but it feels more like a natural, like she's kind of just being herself, fun and like silly.
More charismatic.
The Godzilla ones were a little bit more like a Michael Bay style acting.
Yeah,
right.
Very serious. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And this one, she's got that Deadpool aspect where she can look at the camera and kind of be like, "What the hell is going on?" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She just nails it, man. I mean, like you said,
She's great.
She's showing off a side of her personality she's not really able to in her other hyper serious roles that she's in.
Makes you appreciate the talent that someone her age has. Think about when Stranger Things first came out and how good she was in that role. And
yeah, she was automatically already good.
She's great, man.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what she does as she gets older, like what roles she takes on. But you sent us a Coolio article about Weird Al. All right, I'm gonna have to.
He wrote diss lyrics. That's funny.
The headline is why Coolio wrote diss lyrics for Weird Al during Amish Paradise feud. There was a feud going on, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh boy. It's funny. I think of that song, the actual song, "Gangsta's Paradise." I remember that from the Michelle Pfeiffer movie.
Song. Yes.
Michelle Pfeiffer when she goes into the inner city and like helps the kids. Bill Burr has a whole bit about white girls going into the inner city and helping kids. And like, he goes, let me guess. At first, they don't accept her. And then next scene, she's wearing a do-rag. They're teaching her how to dance. Like it's so funny.
Have you, by the way, Bill Burr related?
Yeah.
His most recent podcast had Bill
just
Maher
listened to it. Yeah.
Dude, those guys in a room together are so funny because
Had who?
Bill Maher. And
Bill Maher, okay.
They're so funny because neither of them are in the mood for anybody to give them shit, so they just give each other shit the whole time. It's so funny.
But then they joke about that. They're like, I'm just trying to bring them the tension. No, it's getting really tense in here. It's like,
no,
we're
gonna uncross your arms for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny.
And then Bill Maher's like, I thought we were gonna. And Bill Burr says, I thought we were gonna like kiss in the parking lot. And Bill Maher's like, no, we're gonna blow each other in the parking lot. Like, they could just really argue and argue, and then just make fun. So it's kind of fun to hear them bicker. They sound like an old couple, to be honest with you.
Right, definitely.
Where's Bill Maher from? Is he from Massachusetts or
New York? I think he's in New York.
Okay, so
it's
similar.
also funny because they're only like 10. Oh, they emphasize it, 12 years apart. But Bill Burr keeps talking about him like he's his father's age. Like he keeps talking like he's in a generation before me, and it's pissing Bill Maher off.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah,
it's a good episode. It's a really good episode.
Yeah, it is funny because they just the way they just feed off each other. It's perfect. Like at first I was like, I don't want to watch anything with Bill Maher right now. He is annoying as hell to me.
So annoying.
But
he's
him
the
with
flippiest,
Bill Burr,
floppiest dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But him with Bill Burr, like, yes, absolutely, 1000%. Because I know the type of personality Bill Maher has, and how Bill Burr won't.
Like I
just
saw
right back to him, you know.
I saw Bill Maher on at least clips of him on Joe Rogan's show a while back, and Joe Rogan tried to show him Kyle Dunnigan doing a great impersonation of
I
him.
remember that. Yeah.
And he just was having none of it.
Yeah.
He just wasn't having it.
Harry does a good impression of me.
He's like, I don't want to see it. He's like, really? Yeah, I'm just gonna show it to you. I don't want to see it. It's like, jerk.
What a cranky pants.
He really is a cranky pants. A couple things we're playing. Well, there's more to talk about that we're watching too, but a couple things that we're playing that are new. We just talked about this Deluge of Games, and we have had that. There's a brief pause here before we hit Sonic Frontiers next week.
Oh my God, it's gonna be all time consuming. Like it's just gonna be our lives.
Dude, Sonic Week, guys.
Big time. Of course, God of War is next week. We're gonna spend a lot of time playing and talking about that one. Then this week's been slower. Doesn't mean nothing's come out, but it's been slower. It's a great chance for some of these smaller games on Game Pass to get my attention, which they have done, because I know I don't have time to really sit down and dive into something. But I can spend, 30 minutes trying out something. So I've played a little bit of Signalis. I don't know how you say that.
I think it's probably Signalis.
Signalis is what I think too.
That sounds right. It's
a pixelated kind of adventure game, and it has some actiony moments that sort of remind me of like a PS1
So
horror
the way I
theme.
like, because I played the demo, the way I is like almost sort of like an isometric top-down, like Resident Evil, sci-fi
a little
Resident Evil.
old Resident Evil style. Yeah,
yeah, because it's got tank controls.
a
So.
little bit tanky. Yep.
Yep.
And it's very much go find this key card and also find but it's broken in half. So go find this
Right.
tape the key
Exactly.
card together. Now you can use it. So it's very kind of PS1 Resident Evil, Dino Crisis. It's in that vein. So far there's very minimal combat. I didn't play it for super long yet. But
I see it in the trailer later.
There is
Like,
some combat.
There's like a random shooting, like shooting
there's
stuff.
creatures in that ship that you start out in.
And you have very limited ammo. So again, back to that Resident Evil comparison, I think it's pretty apt because the idea is shoot them a couple times so they fall, then go over to them and stomp on them, or hit them with a baton if you have that. Like I guess there's some weapons you can get. So,
but it's pixelated though, right? It's got that.
It's pixelated, but it's very kind of modern pixel art where it's animated super smoothly. Like it looks really good. But it has a VCR filminess to it. You can even turn on CRT TV mode if you want to really give it a graininess if you like that style. Or you can do a pixel perfect.
More Resident Evil in a way,
yeah. Because it's like think of Resident Evil, because Resident Evil like does look, the character models look pixelated, but it's 3D. So if you think of it like from that perspective, but like you can make out the characters and creatures a bit more than like say Resident Evil 1, because they were pretty gross looking back then.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it is like a dark sci-fi horror kind of a thing. You don't really know
Derek's favorite genre. That's his favorite genre right there.
You don't know exactly who you are, what you're doing, but you're just kind of pressing ahead and trying to find open doors and talking to people, or if you can find people. There's very few people to talk to, but you talk to whoever you can.
I don't know how different the demo like was, if it was almost just kind of like a proof of concept or anything, but like the way the demo ended was incredibly interesting, and there's like this really like insanely like interesting like synth wave music that kicks in, almost reminded me of like Death Stranding or something at the end of the trailer, and then it starts like flashing all to these like different scenes.
I got to that.
Like there's a lot of psychological stuff.
I got to that.
Oh, cool.
It would like flash a message to you on the screen and show you, and then like
yep.
And the music was building up. I was going, what is happening? So
but like it seems interesting. It seems like there's like almost like a, it's like almost actually even like Returnal a little bit too. There's like a psychological thing, there's a crazy sci-fi thing going on. I just don't really quite know what's going on yet, because the demo was really short, and it sounds like you got about the same length. So
it's about where I played the game so far into. I mean,
I have it installed, I just haven't gotten to it. I mean,
I'm
it's
excited
so easy to get because it's right there on Game Pass, and it's less than like a gig, I think.
Yep, it is reviewing pretty well. Actually, all three of these I'll talk about, and a couple of you I've played too have all reviewed well.
Very much so.
Like in that mid 80s, and it kind of take that for granted. Like, it's a mid 80s, maybe I'll play it. But it's like, dude, that's good. Look at the other games that have come out this year that you might really like. Things are down in the 70s, down in the 60s.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that. Like to be in the 80s averages is nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's not.
The Legend of Tiangding, I think that's how you say it. I know it's called other things by other people, and I won't say any names, but it's the Legend of.
I don't know what you're talking. I've only ever called it Legend of Tiangding.
There's a lot of easy to pronounce things on this episode. Movies and
very much so.
Yeah, this game it's a side-scrolling action platformer. Really reminds me of, like at times I'm kind of like reminded of Aladdin or something. Just kind of like the feel of jumping from very obvious platforms to platforms, but in the actual gameplay and combat, it feels more modern than an old 90s game. I'm not saying it plays like that, because you have a dodge, you can upgrade your skills, you can grab their weapons and use them, you get some combos, and so like the combat's a little more involved than older games. So I think this game's pretty cool. I am in the second area. I'm almost to the second boss. I think there's only 3 main I think it's pretty short. I think it's like a 4-hour game, so it's not a very long
Interesting
game. But
I did the shortest of diddles to this game. I'm still in like the sewer level, which is the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm close to the end, because I did encounter like one of those areas where it spawns like a big guy that you can't really block his attack. Not block. You can't stop his attacks as you're attacking him.
You can't dodge through it.
Yeah.
Either.
You have to get away. You basically have to get away. And you can't steal his weapon either. That's another cool mechanic of the game that I love, is like just being able to steal their weapon when they're at low enough health. That's awesome.
I like that too.
It's awesome.
I like that too. There's so you have a sash. So like you're set up as like this kind of what's it called? Like not a legend, maybe like a local legend, local hero, folklore kind of a thing.
You're a Robin Hood. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like a Robin Hood to this town, and then you return. Like you're the Tiangding guy. He returns, and he's gonna take on this corrupt, mayor or whoever he is, someone who's stealing all people's money and not helping people, and he's beating on poor people.
It's set during Japan occupied Taiwan.
Yeah, so it's set in Taiwan. And so yeah, you're like this hero. And you have this sash, and like part of the lore around this guy is this magical or kind of like whatever sash that he uses to fight. So you use this really quick dagger to attack, and then a little prompt will appear over their head. It'll say press Y, and that's when their health, like Jeff said, is kind of been depleted from the green, and the health bar turns yellow. Then you can hit Y. It wraps them up, and you can throw them in any direction, which doesn't do any damage unless you throw them into an environmental thing. But it does grab their weapon out of their hands. So if you can, like some bosses and larger enemies, you can't. But
you can.
Most of them, you can grab their gun or their staff or their axe or whatever and use that, and it'll give you like how many uses you have. And what I discovered is that you can actually upgrade. So, like for example, the guns are really handy. Like if you steal a gun from someone, then you can shoot them from a distance.
Very much so. Yes.
Quick.
Yeah.
And if you donate money, like as you're going through town in between those levels, there's these beggars who are asking for money. If you give them money, then it'll upgrade all the different weapon things. So like, hey, you can now use this weapon more times or whatever. Like you now can use staff.
That's a cool mechanic. I haven't gotten that far yet.
So all you have to do is just keep giving to the beggars who are asking for money, and then you'll upgrade. So the idea is that if you give back to the poor, because you're Robin Hood basically, then you're going to get stronger as this legendary hero. So that's kind of the idea.
I like the setting. I like the way it plays so far.
Kind of looks like if you liked Artful Escape, where you have kind of like these weird layers and the characters are very cleanly drawn, and then they move. It kind of reminds me of something like that, where it's not super it's not like pixelated or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a little cartoony or comic booky or something.
Yeah, a little comic booky, not quite paper cutouts like Artful Escape, but it just has a little bit of that vibe, the way they move around. So
it's cool. It's a cool
even
game.
like Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, a little bit on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I see
vein
that.
too. So I think it's a pretty fun little game. Also playing Ghost Song. So if you like Metroid, especially like Super Metroid, and if you liked Metroid Dread from last year, I suggest giving Ghost Song a try. Our buddy Tyler from our group just finished it and said he really liked it. And he and I had the same exact thing that's holding this game back from being really great, is the jumping mechanic. Like when you play something like Metroid, jumping just feels great, and you can kind of control the way she moves even as you fall. In this, the jump is just a very straight up, and you can kind of move a little bit to the right or left, but you can't control it very much when you're jumping.
That's the one that has like a Metroid vibe, right? Like you're
very Metroid.
Look like
it is almost literally Metroid.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the trailer for that. I was like, why does he move like that? I don't like the way he moves. Like, I didn't play it, so I don't know.
Yeah, overall the movement's fine. You're a little slow, and the jumping's weird, but like the combat's fun, like the shooting, and then you can do a melee attack, which I think works. So when you get into the vibe of like, as you shoot, your gun heats up and it starts to smoke and it gets really red, and then your melee attacks do way more damage because you're hitting them with that smoking hot gun now.
Oh, okay,
So,
interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's a cool little mechanic, and you can upgrade to other weapons later too.
Yeah, it's definitely a Metroid clone, but at least it's good. Like if it were a Metroid clone and it did it worse, I would be like, oh god, what a try hard thing to do. But it's actually quite good and fun to play. That's another one I barely played though. I didn't get very far. I got like to my first save, and I was like, I'm good. Like I'm good for now. Like I'll come back later.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got frustrated in the Metroid type games with I don't know where to go next, the idea is look at your map, see where you haven't gone, see what you can't access. I just got a new ability, go back to revisit areas you maybe couldn't get through before. It's got a lot of that. And so if that frustrates you, if that's not your thing, maybe this game won't be as much for you, but I still think it's great. And it looks really cool too. The art style.
Oh yeah, I like the art style a lot. Yeah,
the art style is really cool. So 3 really solid Game Pass games, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a perfect time for those type of palate cleanser titles.
I know Derek's been playing some Gears Tactics. I see it in your background too. You haven't played that before? You dove in this week with this one?
I played like maybe 5 minutes when it launched, and then I bought it last year. It was like $5 during Black Friday, so I bought it. But I'm not typically a tactics RPG type guy, so I mainly bought it just because I'm a Gears fan. $5, I own it. But I was wanting to unlock some achievements and decided to download this game and boot it up. And I played like the first 2 missions. And I, because this year I've been playing a little bit more tactical or strategic RPGs. This game kind of feels like something I could definitely. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not stupid. God of War comes out in 4 days from this recording. But like, it's definitely a game I could see myself getting into because it's still like a Gears game as far as like it has like all the finishers. The characters are very Gearsy, well acted. Graphics are really nice, but it's a really in-depth like XCOM type game as well, and I appreciate that more now than I did a year or 2 ago. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I liked some of them. I've always been a Fire Emblem fan, but I didn't have to beat those games. I was okay playing them for like 10 hours and saying, I'm a fan because I like the characters, I like the story, and the combat's pretty fun. But now I'm really, really digging those style games. So yeah, Gears Tactics is definitely a good one.
And it looks good too, right? Like it's really pretty for that style of game too. Like it looks great.
Looks good on Xbox Series X, and I'm playing it mainly on PC. But yeah, that one, and then I finished a couple of games this week. I don't know.
Yeah, what'd you finish?
I finished both Gotham Knights and Shadow of Rose from Resident Evil Village.
Yes. Right. So last week you were higher on it than I think you ended up landing on it, right? In terms of what you thought.
For sure. So I talked about last week. I think I was in the first hour. In the first hour, this isn't a spoiler because it's literally in all the trailers. Plus, it's the beginning of the game. You're in the castle again. And then after the first hour, you leave the castle. I won't talk about where you go. One of the places you go is super creepy.
The mechanics change.
Very uncomfortable, and I don't like it. But I objectively see, this is one of those things where people make fun of me. They're like, oh, objective. But this is one of those things where I can go subjectively. That's not my style of gameplay, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't like that type of stuff.
It's tense.
Objectively, I can go, okay, this is a horror game or survival horror game. They nailed it. Like, they did the purpose of what they were trying to do. They nailed it. So even if I don't love it, it's really well done. The part I really didn't like, and again, won't spoil it, is just the ending. I thought the last boss was stupid. I thought the conclusion to the story was dumb. I just didn't really, I felt really, really cheesy. I know Resident Evil has always had a cheesiness, but this was like really, really cheesy. So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It would fall in that 6, I would say 6.5. I don't think it's as bad as a 6, but it's definitely not swimming in 7s. And then Gotham Knights, I still feel highly about that game. If I had to score it, it's an 8 for me.
Sweet.
I played through the entire game as Batgirl. I mean, I switched the other characters just to switch out like their. Yeah, I did.
Because
she has just the perfect butt. Like,
well, I was gonna say you're
butt girl. Yeah.
If only she didn't talk at all, she'd be perfect.
You're just very you're an activist for the women, right? You're a protector of the ladies. So
absolutely.
I think if we had a supercut of all the times you've said that since you and I have podcasted together, if she would just stop talking, she'd be great. Like I feel like that's been said so many times.
Tim, that would be like a 13-hour long video.
13-hour, yeah.
I feel like Tim has more evidence on me to like sabotage my relationship with my girlfriend. Like he could actually bring data and be like, "Are you sure you want to marry this guy?"
He could bring
you're a type of guy. Then like my ex-wife wouldn't even have enough data to wreck that.
Tim pulls down the projector. He has a presentation like a photo.
I mean, with doing our first podcast and then this one together for so long, I feel like we've talked more together than most couples.
And the thing is, I've actually gotten better. Like I used to be really bad on Facebook. I used to say really, really bad stuff. I actually think twice because I'm like, well, what if my girlfriend sees? No, don't get me wrong. She knows how I am, but I'm like, I don't want her to see that. That's just me being terrible.
So for
I'll
anyone
wait
listening or watching, and you're like, you've offended me many times recently, it's like, just remember, it could be worse. Just know that it could be way worse.
Could be way worse. Yeah.
Derek not
That's
think
exactly
twice.
what I say to my girlfriend. I'm like,
It
you're
could be-
hurt by that? I was thinking worse things, you know. I gave you the subtle version.
Hey,
Check your Derek privilege, man. It could be way worse. That's all I'm saying.
Derek, can I recommend you maybe sometimes think 3 times before you do this?
Interesting.
No, I'm very okay with what I
That's too
say.
much.
Hey, you finished
two is
Fire
too much.
Emblem Three Houses, right? Was that a couple weeks ago though that you finished that one? Okay, but
Finished that, and then Gotham Knights. I'll just finish what I was going to say about Gotham
oh,
Knights
Gotham
before
Knights,
I
yeah.
got sidetracked on Batgirl and her booty.
Girl, that butt girl.
So I thought okay, so here's what I'm going to say about this game. Very, very good game. I really enjoyed it. I can understand some of the criticism. I cannot understand most of it. I do have an issue with a couple of the boss fights. I just thought they were sponges and they interrupt everything. They're never impacted by anything. And I felt like I had to hit them 100 gazillion times to get them to move down even a little bit. They barely had openings. So it just felt like, when you play a Souls game, they're hard. And they can be hard because sometimes they can last too long because maybe you don't do enough damage, but you can level up and do better damage and stuff like this. Felt like I was literally 2 or 3 levels higher than these bosses, and I'm like, and this is on normal difficulty. I'm like, why am I not doing anything to this guy? And he literally one-shotted me. So there was some infuriating boss fights towards the end. But overall, still a really, really fun game, and I really think they nailed the loot system. I even went back and started playing the Avengers again. It was only because I was trying to unlock achievements, and I'm not saying that game's terrible, but I just like Gotham Knights way better. I feel what they're trying to do, and the way they incorporate co-op, and it can fully be a single-player game. I played this game completely single-player. I just found it to be a fun, good game. It's definitely going to be in my top 10. I doubt it'll make top 5, although I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest praise I have to say for it is, for me, what I liked is the suits are so freaking badass.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
guys
god,
talked about
dude,
the
they're
suits.
so
They sound
good.
great.
Cool skin suits. Like, when I originally saw Batgirl, like when they were previewing her, I was like, nope, not using her. Because not just because like, oh, I hate women. Because I'm like, I don't like her outfit. Like, she just looks stupid to me. All of them, all 4 of them have absolutely really, really cool outfits. And since it's a third-person game and you get to see them, it matters. So and there's powers attached to it and stats.
Yeah,
so
like the Spider-Man costumes, how they attach abilities. Cool.
This is even more because if I remember correctly, Spider-Man doesn't have like, this is armor 18 and that one's armor 16. This is like you're getting armor unlocked and you can apply.
Oh, so that's like stat based, whereas Spider-Man is just like
stats based.
It can be, yeah.
But if you like a certain armor, so for instance, like I had like a high level epic armor, but I didn't like how it looked. And then I had unlocked this metal Batgirl suit that is freaking awesome looking. And so I just went in there, grabbed the metal Batgirl suit and put it on over. So that's what you see, but I'm still wearing the epic armor. But it was my choice. I could have left it as is, or I can change it. And I thought that was cool that I still get the stats, but get to look how I want. But for most of the game, most of the armors were cool. I didn't do that. I was just like, whatever I changed to is what I wore. I just really liked all that. I am excited for the future. It's definitely one of those games, like I do like to come back and play games. It's definitely one that I'll do a New Game Plus, and I would absolutely love to play co-op with people. In fact, I was talking to Jesse White, and I was like, if you get this game, get it on PS5, and I'll play it with you. He's like, well, I thought you were playing on PC. I was like, I am playing on PC, but my son has it on PS5. So if you buy it on PS5, I will go steal the game from him, and I will co-op it with you. So it's one of those games that I want to go back and play with somebody else. Now that I know the story, I don't need to pay attention to anything. It would be more for just for.
Yeah. Dude, it's so, man. The co-op is so fun. Me and Kyle did that. I mean, the only downside is you level up so fast when you're co-op, because and then you have to go back to your own game and do the stories over again, and then you're leveled up even more. So that's the only negative is like, oh crap, now I'm like way too.
Really OP, yeah.
But it's still, that could be a fun thing too at the same time. There was a fight. I think Kyle was playing it on normal too. And he said the Mr. Freeze fight he couldn't beat at all, so he just didn't do it. But he did beat the game, and he had to lower the difficulty to easy for the final fight because it was just stupid. Like you were saying, it was like a blockable move after there was no window. There was no real actual window. I was on easy the whole time. I just wanted to beat it, so I had no problems. But
I have no. Yeah, once you drop it to easy, it's easy. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But normal, like I was literally, I'm not exaggerating because I play it that way. If you tell me a story mission is level 21 to 24, then the minimum I'll allow myself to be before I start that mission is 24. But normally I'll be 25, 26.
Yes.
That's what I was doing. I was going out, looting, getting experience, having fun, and then I was leveling up, and then I try to fight some of these bosses on normal, and I was just like, I'm not doing any damage. Now, part of it I can say I can take the blame on is I was obsessed with epic and above loot.
Oh yeah.
So I think maybe part of my problem was I wasn't using rare loot that was higher level, and that was probably doing more damage because I was only looking at the power level and my epic. So I could, just to give an example, if I'm level 24 and I have the option to create a level 24 rare item, but only allows one mod slot, and then I have a level 22 epic armor that has 3 mod slots, when you attach the 3 mods, your power level is way higher than that level 24 rare.
Right.
So I wasn't using the level 24 rare. I was like, the power level's 300 less, but all the other stats were higher. And I think that may have been my problem is I was so focused on power level, maybe those other stats were what made you hit harder or defend better. I don't know. I didn't really test it, but I was just waiting. I felt like the loot system was a little off for me because I was just like waiting for epic 24 or 25 to unlock, and then they wouldn't. And then I got a legendary 23 to unlock when I was like a level 23, level 24. But I never had any until even after I beat the game, I never had any of the stuff to actually create the legendary item. I was like,
yeah, I was still missing pieces for.
I never got legendary material, so there must have been something I was missing. But
I guess
still a really good game.
I wonder if it's the side crap that because there's so much side stuff that I didn't even do.
Oh, yeah.
Like finding books or whatever the hell, or
Yeah.
there's so much random side stuff you can do that I bet probably contributes to that. But I'm never going to do it.
It's not what, in my opinion, and this isn't to bash reviewers. I'm not going to sit here and act like I like reviewers. I don't. I have a few that I watch, I like. I disagree with them, but I don't hate them sometimes. But like this game, I really think reviewers were off. I really do. I agree. Know what the hell they were drinking, what they were expecting, but they were off. They just don't enjoy games.
Well, users are scoring it pretty low too, at least on Metacritic. It's not even above a 5 on any of the platforms for users, and then for reviewers.
Well, it's all the you know.
Well, it's
Batman,
weird that
Batman,
because every single person I have seen that's actually, I'm talking about who played the game. I'm not talking about those dumb broken records that are like, that game's bad. Did you play it? No, the game's bad. That have played the game, everybody says, I like it. It's fun. It's good. It's not perfect, but it's good. That's what everybody I've seen says. So it's weird.
I'm just glancing through some of these user reviews, which there's lots of 0s and 2s, and it's
the 0s I feel like just mostly.
But like this one's funny. It's like
didn't play it.
Someone put this masterpiece can barely run at 30 frames per second, so it's a very similar experience to playing Grand Theft Auto 4 in 2008.
Yeah, that guy didn't play it. He just took the 30 frames per second thing and made a terrible review.
Yeah,
guaranteed he did not play it.
I promise you.
That's funny.
Unless
A lot
they're
of
like
people
a
just
30
complaining
frames
about
per
the price.
second
A lot of people
snob or
didn't
something.
play
I
it.
don't-
You can tell they didn't play it. They're just complaining that it costs $70. So I'm never gonna buy this. So it's like, well, why are you giving it a 0? So
Yeah.
It's dumb. That's why user reviews are absolutely stupid. Even though I don't like reviewers, at least I know where they stand. Now I get, and I talked about this last week, I get mad when I'm like, you guys are judging it based off your own desires, not based off of what they were trying to create. Then I have a problem. But at least they're telling me after they played the game the parts they liked and they didn't like, and then I can decide I agree, I disagree, or that doesn't matter to me, or it does matter to me.
didn't IGN give us one a 5?
Yes.
I
And
feel
didn't
like
someone
they're
mod the
reviews.
IGN 5
Yes,
Hexagon
it's
score
Spider-Man,
into
yeah.
Spider-Man?
Which I didn't understand at first. Like,
I think
get
it's just the
they
idea
modded
of like.
it on Gotham Knights, but in
I think they
Spider-
modded it onto a really good superhero game. I don't know. Something about being able to mod anything into Spider-Man.
It's so dumb, right?
It's so stupid.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
so
somebody added a. I think Bruce Green was playing it on his stream. Somebody added a flying car mod for Cyberpunk, and it took like an hour or so to install and configure, and it crashes your game after like 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sure. Don't doubt it whatsoever. But listen, I do think there are some games where I feel like, no, I have to experience it start to finish without changing the difficulty. I have to. And there's other games, and I just did one recently where I'm like, I don't feel bad even a little bit about bumping this down to easy because I want to wrap this up and move on. And
Right.
that was Bayonetta 2. Like, I needed to spend a little more time not only getting just better at the combos, because that last fight is challenging, not impossible. I got close to beating him on the first try. And before I even started the second attempt, I was like, I want to start Bayonetta 3. I don't have time for all this stuff. I talked earlier about a lot of things we have going on. So I just bumped it down to easy. And I was like, I'm going to beat on easy. And if I don't feel satisfied, like I feel like I cheated the system, I'll circle back and I'll play it on normal again. So I put it on easy. It's incredibly easy. He barely hurts you. So like that fight just flew by. So I was happy to see the ending cinematic and see it play out and see the credits roll. And I still don't feel guilty about that, which is funny because I played that whole game through on normal and then bumped the final fight down to easy. I should feel bad, but I kind of don't because it's an older game. I just wanted to get through it. But I think that's okay if that's what you're trying to do. I think if you really feel that sense of satisfaction of I want to play it as originally intended, I totally understand.
I get enough dopamine out of just beating a game in general that I have been playing on easy for the past like 5 years at least. Like,
yeah.
I'm just like, whatever. I already, like, as soon as it's like
Depends on
100% you're done, I'm like,
Depends on the game.
like, it feels so good.
It depends on what type of gamer you are too. Like, for instance, like if you're a guy who buys a game once every 3 or 4 months, then you're in no rush to get through a game to get to the next one.
Right.
Absolutely. Play it on normal, play it on hard, especially if it's an RPG. Over level your character, go destroy the game. I absolutely love doing that stuff.
Same here.
But when it's a season like this, like I play most of my games on normal.
Get through games.
But I like to get through my games because I like to, for instance, like I'm like, okay, God of War's coming. So I need to get through Gotham Knights. That's how my brain thinks.
Yeah.
And that's why I will admit, to be completely open and honest, that's where some of the enjoyment does start to get sucked out because I start rushing and then I get really mad if I die. And I'm like, that's just stupid. And then I start pitching fits instead of going, dude, you didn't feel this way before when you were taking your time. You're trying to rush through this. So in this season where they're dropping games every 5 seconds, there's certain games I don't care if I play it on easy. Like Bayonetta, I do not care. I'm not a master at those games. I'll play, like I started Bayonetta 3 on normal, and I'll play it on normal for as long as I like, and then
until
when
you hit a wall.
Until I hit a wall and I suck, I'll drop it to easy. But most RPGs and stuff like that, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna play it at normal. But in this season, I didn't have a problem with Gotham Knights towards the end. I knew I was already good at the game. I was like, this is either I'm missing something or this game on certain bosses is just jacked up. And I'm not going to sit here and grind for another 10 hours.
I think with Avengers, it's worse, but I think Avengers had the same boss problem too, where you're like, okay, so we just can't beat this guy. All right, cool. So we'll just fail and just go do something else. Like, it's stupid.
I mean,
it makes you appreciate a good balance. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah. No. So I was just because when I walked away, I was still listening, and you guys were I think I think Derek was comparing liking Gotham versus Avengers, and it's like, yeah, well, it's because they weren't shoving microtransactions down your throat.
That's
No,
huge
yeah.
part of it.
It's just
Yeah.
a normal video game that you progress in it, and if when you're doing better and you're leveling up, you get better equipment.
And the way that
back
they
in the day,
handled their gear was like, you can make this gear if you want. You don't have to though. Like you can just
Yeah.
kind of.
You're not
every
actually
time you level up, you
unlocking
get
gear. You're deciding what you want to make or not. You're only getting material.
Right.
And when you're in a mission, you can create, like you can use that material to create gear, but they're like, you can't access
It's
this
not
gear
like in
until you go to the
Avengers.
home base.
In Avengers, it was like every 2 seconds you were picking up a new thing and you had to swap it out, and you're like, God, this is so freaking repetitive. It just became a lot by the time I finished the story. I was like, I can't.
Oh,
keep
that's
going with this.
that's something Neo struggles with too. That I was concerned with Wolong. It's an excessive amount of gear, and most of it's trash. And and Neo is literally the worst. If none of you have really played Neo a lot, you will have like 80 gazillion things of gear.
Oh,
You're
Lord.
like, what can I destroy? It gives you anxiety.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was actually looking at the reviews for Avengers, Marvel's Avengers from 2020, and almost identical reviews where you had some critics, usually the smaller ones, more niche websites and outlets, giving it up in the 90s, but it averaged out at 67, just like Gotham Knights kind of averages out in the high 60s. And then user scores are all over the place, but because of all the ones and zeros, it's down at 4.9 user
See,
scores.
now
So it's
I
almost identical, by the way.
I remember
critics
defending, because I think I was on the podcast by then. I remember defending Avengers, at least in the Game of the Year discussion, like
we did.
not for like best game or anything, but like for like best story, I think, and stuff like that.
And I agree with you, yeah.
And I put it in the swimming in sevens camp for Gotham Knights. It's not even like swimming in sevens for me. It's like, guys, no, this is a Game of the Year conversation, a genuine one. Like it's.
You know what's interesting is Avengers, I thought, was a good attempt and had its moments. And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out and just blew me away. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I just thought that was just narratively so compelling, but also gameplay was a blast. Like, I don't know how they did it without telling anyone. And it was like, by the way, here comes a Guardians game in 3 months, and it's amazing. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? You've been working on this? So I love when that happens. And so that's where, to me, that's where the bar is set for a good single player superhero game experience is at the moment. It's Spider-Man and it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are the two in my opinion.
Like poor Guardians of the Galaxy, because they suffered because of what Avengers did. Like they suffered.
They did.
I
think they did
sales.
too. Yeah.
Like
they just assumed because Square was involved that it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just not true, you know.
Yeah, but thankfully that one did overall review better, and players loved it too. There was like nothing involving.
It's one of those things where as soon as people played it, they realized it.
Yeah, word of mouth mattered with Guardians, and then coming to Game Pass, anybody who didn't listen to other gamers and reviewers who finally played it on Game Pass, again, a lot of what I've seen, I'm not saying I've seen a billion people play it and they all said I like it, but most people are like, that's a good game, that's a great game. And I felt that way too.
Yeah, user score
but I enjoyed it.
User score was 8.7, which is crazy, and Metascore was 84. Really so like critics and users all, and it was just a single player experience. Boom, go do it. And we're not gonna like microtransaction you to death. We're not gonna So anyway, even though it's a game that kind of looks like and plays like, hey, this could be co-op. This didn't have any co-op, right? Wasn't it always?
No, it was all single player, and you would just do commands for your.
I mean, to me, Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't. What made it great was not the combat. I'm not saying it's bad, but I
think
it
was fun.
It
was fun
more fun.
Yeah, combat was good. By the end, I was kind of like, let's get to the next story point because it was repetitive.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Guardians combat felt a little more repetitive, whereas Gotham Knights, especially in the last like third of the game, I was like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this now. Like I was dodging left and right. Like you can get really good at the Gotham Knights.
That's cool.
Combat. Not to use the phrase "get good," but you really can excel at it.
I was waiting for Dan to say it with all this easy mode talk we got going on here.
Yeah, you guys are just you're never gonna be a pro gamer.
We're not
unless you beat Sekiro. All right, and then you.
I did.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I did it the most alpha way you can.
I did full stop. I beat it.
First of all,
don't at me. Don't at me.
Here's why I said I beat the most alpha way you can beat it.
Excuse me.
Because I beat the game the way that the game should have been designed. I told the game how it should have been designed. That is alpha. Whereas you were a beta and you followed the rules of the game. You're like, oh, I'll play it your way.
This is so the opposite of what you've said so many times about so many games. I love it. I love it.
Is it really you being alpha, or are you just being an asshole?
It's alpha to
It's
play the
definitely
game the way they should have
It's
designed
definitely
it. They should have designed it this way, so that's how I'm gonna play it. That's their fault.
Because everyone on the internet told them to make easy mode, then they should have done that too,
They
right?
should've.
They told
They
them to make an easy mode. So.
That's on them.
They should have made a mode for blind people. I'm
But
sick of
those are all whiner betas. They don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
Right,
Agreed.
Right.
By
They're
the
all
way,
Taylor Swift fans. They don't
speaking
care.
of being a pro gamer, make sure you go
What?
check out
What?
Dan's.
What?
I think your Twitch channel is getting some views, man. It's growing from what I've seen. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's I've been playing more retro stuff, which I think really grabs people's attention because I mean it's not easy to find that stuff nowadays. You know, you have to go to some retro, whatever store and like hopefully they have an old whatever system and they have the cartridge.
Are you playing Zelda on the Switch though? From the
no, I'm not.
Oh, you modded it. Never mind.
No, I didn't mod it, but I'm not using the Switch.
He's
I'm
playing it legally. Continue.
I'm playing the GameCube version, and yeah, it's legal.
Yeah. It's possible.
But I'm playing the game. Yeah, I'm playing the GameCube version because I downloaded something to play the GameCube version, and I wanted to play. I'm gonna play something else in the future. Skies of Arcadia. I really want to play. I haven't played that in years. I freaking love that RPG.
That was a good game.
Yeah. So I basically downloaded that so then in the future I could also then play Skies of Arcadia.
Isn't
but yeah,
Skies of Arcadia on PC? I thought you could get it.
No,
I don't think so.
It's not, which is a huge bummer. So
It's
basically,
just
so it came out
GameCube and PS2.
So it came out on the
It's on
Dreamcast
Dreamcast.
first. Came out on Dreamcast first, and then there's a GameCube version that's Skies of Arcadia Legends.
And that's the top tier version that everyone says.
That's the best one I believe because I think there's like an extra character and maybe some other. I don't actually remember what extra stuff it is, but I know there's like an actual extra character in that game or in that version, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm playing Legend of Dragoon. I just started that on Friday.
I saw that. Yep.
Final Fantasy VII, the original one, Legend, Ocarina of Time. So I'm playing some older stuff, and I'm kind of trying to balance everything with some newer and older stuff. It's really fun. So
yep.
Yeah,
you guys
you can emulate Skies on PC at 4K.
Did the Skies of Arcadia come out on Switch? Was there a port to the Switch or no? Okay.
They need. I would love a remaster of that.
Yeah.
I would love a remaster.
Yeah, that game is beloved. They should definitely do that. All right. Let's quick go through a couple other things we're either playing or watching. So anything that hasn't been mentioned before we close out with some headlines before we do a spoiler cast.
I just wanted to add because Derek had mentioned the what is it, Shadow of Rose DLC. So I'd say score wise, yeah, probably around the same. I think visually and sort of what they do in the second half of that, like Derek said, it is scary and definitely maybe not so much his style. I don't mind the style. I thought it was really interesting, but I don't know. I've always been very like not that into DLC. So for me, it just like it's a short DLC. It does feel kind of rushed because it's short. I think that there's an interesting moment towards the end there, which is kind of nice. I'm trying not to be too specific, but
where Channing Tatum shows up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's very heartfelt. But I mean, the boss fight, I didn't hate the boss fight. I thought it was it just felt more not traditional Resident Evil, like focusing so much with your weapons. You are still using your weapons, but there's just kind of more to it because Rose obviously is unique. With her abilities, like we all know that she has abilities. It was literally in the trailer. We just know that she has abilities. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the end is kind of like, I thought it was interesting the way they wrapped it over to, and Derek, how they wrapped it back to Village. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, I see what they did there. But yeah, then it just kind of ends. And I remember them saying leading up to the release, they're like, oh, so this is going to conclude the story. And they kind of almost were trying to say like, it's going to feel really satisfying. And it's like, it just ends. And it's like, oh, all right. I kind of was expecting a little more there, like an extra moment at the end there, and it didn't happen. So I was like, oh, all right, cool. We're done. So
yeah.
I didn't hate it.
Honestly, Village truthfully, the ending of Village is more of a wrap than this. Like, it still leaves you all. The only difference here, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying this, is the only difference here is you just get to play as Rose, but it doesn't actually like close out Rose's story or anything. You could literally apply that same ending that they give you in her story to Village and be like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You only difference is you got to play as her.
Yeah, there's like a closing scene at the end of Village. Like, isn't that post-credit scene where you kind of get an idea that things will continue with what's going on with her? Like, they kind of close it out that way. So
that's why for me, like, DLCs just always feels like a thing that they're like, we have to make something so people like turn back around and like, oh, I gotta go back to this. I gotta.
Dude, the Witcher DLCs were so unique because they were so freaking good. And they were complete stories that had great conclusions, and you felt like awesome. This felt like a separate chapter to this game.
Yeah. They felt like for like The Witcher 3, it felt like The Witcher 3.25, The Witcher 3.5. Like, it didn't feel like it was still part of The Witcher 3, but it didn't feel like you had to play The Witcher 3 to understand what was going on in those.
You could have jumped into Blood and Wine and not had played the main game at all. I mean, maybe some characters would be like, who is this? But like, you could have experienced it and enjoyed it without that.
Which is what a lot of DLCs try to do. The difference here, and the reason why we praise The Witcher 3, is The Witcher 3's expansions, or whatever you want to call them, were more fleshed out, not rushed. A lot of games don't do that anymore. If they release DLC, they try to keep it. I think it's because a lot of people don't play DLC. They try to keep it like 3 to 5 hours max, and you can't really flesh out in a video game. In a movie, yes. In a show, yes. But in a video game, you can't flesh out characters. You can't flesh out a story a lot of times when it's rushed like that. And that's what happened here.
Dude, the other DLC that I highly recommend is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And they have some chunky DLC. Like, there's so much content. It's real chunky. The one especially that takes you... There's one that takes you into, like, into Hades. And you go to a couple other places. And the way those maps open up, and they give you like mini open worlds to now explore in AC Odyssey, and the stories are great. And I loved their DLC.
And that almost seems like too much, right? But if you're if you're like playing a handful of games in an entire year, then that's fantastic. You know,
but
that almost seems like too much.
I think I love that they poured that into that DLC.
Yeah, no,
you
of course,
have to play it, but if you were like just an Odyssey mega fan and you're like, I just want more of this, and I've explored every corner of this world somehow, even though it's crazy big, but I've somehow explored it all and I want more. They gave you a ton more. Same with The Witcher 3. It's like,
and that's what they did with Valhalla. They just didn't do it, I don't think, quality level at the level that The Witcher 3's expansions or DLCs are. For Valhalla, I played the 2.
The Paris one was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. They're decent. They're telling their own stories. The thing is you're replaying essentially Valhalla, which I already spent 80 to 100 hours in. They don't change much. It's like the same gameplay, and then you're just in a different story. The new DLC, the actual what I would consider expansion, because it's like $40. Now that they changed the gameplay, and they changed the setting, they do all that for Valhalla.
Wasn't that like the Ragnarok DLC?
But that was scoring like 6s and 7s because it was, and I played like 3 hours of it, and I was like, I'm not feeling this. This isn't. This is not what I want.
Makes you appreciate the good stuff. So House of the Dragon just finished season 1, and listen, I know HBO Max has crazy subscriber numbers right now, and I think one of the big reasons is because of House of the Dragon, because what they're going through and the way that things are kind of shifting over there, you'd think that they would be hurting. Right. It's all something where they're just under 100 million subscribers. I think they were like 95 million subscribers. Like, that's crazy.
And they're one of the more pricey, or it's $15 a month, right?
It is 15 a month. Yep. So anyway, I think this show is being praised by folks even who I think are being overly harsh of the way the main Game of Thrones. And I didn't even love the way main Game.
I didn't love it, but
I was like, that's the story they told, and it is what it is. And it had its moments, and I was fine with it. It's like that's the story they told. I'm more interested in reading the books whenever those someday hopefully come out. That being said, this show seems to be loved by people who even were like, I'm done with Game of Thrones. I don't want their spin-offs and prequels.
Yes.
And they're like, dude, I kind of love this show. Like that's the
Yes.
vibe that I've heard from people.
But
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think has to do with because it's giving you Game of Thrones season 1 vibes, and you're starting off with a whole new set of characters, a whole new set of like whole new area. Yes, I get that it's a prequel, but most people, unless you study everything about this, don't even know how a lot of these people are even related. And I think that
And they are related.
Yes, they are definitely
Lots of
related.
inbreeding. Oh my god.
But they reset this, and I think that's the advantage. What I'm trying to say is once you get to season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they don't start doing what everybody thinks they should do, you're going to get the same whining and complaining, especially if this is a huge hit, which right now it is. But if it continues to be a huge hit,
I don't think that it's not going to have
right
the same. It's not going to have the same problem because the House of the Dragon book that it's based on is done. There's no question about that. It's done. Yeah. We don't need to. If anything, you just need to flesh out certain parts. That's about it.
It's not like, hey, we have source material for 5 seasons, and then we have to make it up as we go.
Yeah, then we have to make it up. Yeah. And George R.R. Martin he's in the writer's room writing this show. It's not like Game of Thrones where it was like mainly 2 guys doing it, like that didn't write the books.
I gotta tell you, man, I think the sweet spot for shows like this is like 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And when I am a mega fan of a show, I want season 5, I want them to keep going because I love it so much. But over time, I feel like shows that kind of wrap things up around season 4, there's some exceptions. Maybe it's a season 5. Those are like Breaking Bad's a great example. 5 seasons. Yeah, and it did not overstay its welcome.
Westworld was just going to do 1 last season, and that's it.
Oh, that's such a bummer they got
canceled. The thing is, with season 4, the way that it ended, which, by the way, season 4 is like my favorite Westworld season outside of the first one. Like, it's so freaking good. The way they ended it, though, has such a sense of like, oh, this could be it. This could be the end of the show.
So it works.
It's not that upsetting.
So it works as a closing.
They kind of did it perfectly, yeah. Accidentally perfect.
I'll go back again. A great example is Dexter. It would be up there in my favorite shows ever if it was just a 4-season show and it ended where it ended on that tragedy, and it's just like,
oh my god,
wow.
Yeah.
What, like, if that's all we still had, they haven't given us any more Dexter since then. I'd be like, remember Dexter? What a freaking masterpiece that was.
Right.
But I don't think
that's how I feel. I feel like shows drag on, and what they do is they just replay scenarios over and over, but you get tired of it. It becomes fatigue, and you're just like, okay, I've seen this over and over. How many times is it going to get? Or the excitement of this new love relationship is no longer exciting. You've played it out forever.
Yep.
Or they finally get the girl, and now you're like, oh, the show's still going. That was the climax of the show. Like that type of stuff. Like they don't.
It feels like you're calling out Jim and Pam a little bit.
I heard some Jim and Pam from The Office there for a second. Yeah. I think there's plenty of examples of that too. I agree with you 100%. But this one just finished season 1. Sounds like season 2 isn't going to even start filming till next year, so it's going to be a minute till we get season.
Yeah, and then the CG is going to take forever to do. So I imagine it'll be like summer 2023 or something like that. But 2024, sorry, yes.
Yeah, 2024.
But I did want to put it on the notes to check back in and let you guys know. First full season, knocked it down. It's freaking great. Highly recommend going back to it. It's awesome.
Nice.
Back to the Game of Thrones world, I guess, is what I mean by that. But yes, it's really good.
Yeah, the HBO subscription is going to be circling back for me here pretty soon because I've got time to kind of do my rotation of catching up on stuff. Because I think I'm all caught up on most things on Peacock, so that one we're turning off. Like we're just kind of, like I said before, we're kind of rotating.
Oh, you haven't? Have you started A Friend of the Family yet?
No, that one didn't interest me.
It's really good.
It's not. Is it all the way out yet? Right? It's not.
The final episode comes out next week, I think.
Yeah, I might circle back. It's just low. Like if I had to rank all the shows I'm behind on, that one's pretty low on the list.
There's one on there too called The Capture that is amazing, and they just dropped the second season on Peacock. Yeah.
Now you're telling me I got to get Roku too. It's too much. It's too much.
That one's free, man. That one's free. Just sign up, basically.
So you did watch The Good Nurse. Any quick thoughts on that? We talked about last week.
The only reason I wanted to circle back on it is because of I don't know, just how impressed I was with the pacing of it and how well researched the writing was in terms of like hospital terminology and stuff like that. And how they tackled the Eddie Redmayne's character, like the real person, they made him so unassuming until the third act when they arrested him, and then you see the cracks, and he is like, when he's breaking down, being interrogated, it's just some of the best
And he's
acting.
screaming, "I can't." Well,
yeah, it's just so unsettling. And then when he finally does start listing the names of people, and some he can't even remember, it's like a totally different person, because they the way that they sold it was perfect. It was like this friendly guy that you would never suspect would do this type of thing, and sure enough, he's a freaking serial killer, dude. It's wow, they did such a good job with that. And of course, I'm impressed with Jessica Chastain. She always does amazing, like every role. But Eddie Redmayne is like hit or miss for me. He gets a little too whispery sometimes. But in this, he's just awesome, dude. He's like,
in the Fantastic Beasts movies, he's always got a weird like hunch to him, and he's kind of like peeking at everybody. It's like, what are you doing?
I think they're trying to have him be autistic without making him autistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because his eyes are always kind of like
it.
darting around, like he won't look at anyone. It's like, all right, dude.
It's weird quirks and stuff.
But he's great in this. Jessica Chastain is great. It's just a fantastic flick.
And I love seeing, I think his name's Noah Emmerich. I love seeing him in just any cop role.
From the Truman Show? Remember, he was in the Truman Show. He was Truman's buddy.
The last thing I'd ever do is lie to you.
Oh man, that scene still makes me so mad. I'm like, you're lying to him right now. It's so good.
He was the cop in, I think he's in The Americans. I think he's like the main antagonist.
That's another show I never watched.
The Russian family. I assume it's on Hulu because it's an FX show. But he's so good as like a federale, basically, or a cop of some kind. He's just so good in that type of role.
And by the way, Derek, what you were saying earlier about shows that start to repeat stuff, the show that came to mind because you mentioned The Americans was 24. Is one of those shows that I loved for a few seasons there. I was like, there's nothing else like this.
And then they brought it back again.
Fun.
Yeah.
And then like I forget I think there's like 8 seasons. It's way too much. Like it's just too. And then they did like a repeat. They brought like a revisited season. I don't know what they did. They tried to bring it back. So anyway, that's a show that came to mind for that. Speaking of shows, I finished out Midnight Club season 1 finally.
It's a really good show. Yeah.
I did really enjoy it. It's not what I expected. I still I enjoyed his last series way more.
Yeah, same.
What's that one called? I'm blanking
Midnight
out.
Mass. It's
Midnight Mass.
Yeah, Midnight.
I thought Midnight Mass was just so good, and I thought this one was good. But there are certainly moments where I started to be like, are they going to explain anything? Because the pacing is starting to annoy me. Like, so that was just me, though. That was me. Like, I needed to just let the stories tell themselves out and like let it breathe. And this is definitely a show where you have to have patience because this is
not in my on purpose. It's not in like even my honorable mentions of all the freaking shows that I love from this year. Like, it's really good.
Yeah.
But
the acting is great.
The pacing hurts it a little bit for sure.
The acting is great. It's very creative, and by the end you kind of see what it is that they're doing, and you see it before that. Like you get an idea of what it is they're doing with these stories and everything. Anyway, it was good, and I did finally watch The Gentleman. It's like Guy Ritchie.
The Gentleman, yes,
and that was really fun. I loved that movie, dude. I've never seen Hugh Grant just smarming up more on screen. Like just he was having a blast.
I'll be honest. I've never seen, and this is coming from a Sons of Anarchy fan, I've never seen Charlie Hunnam in a good movie role until this movie.
Dude,
and he has been trying. He has been trying so hard to have like that one role that's really good.
He was great. He had a very understated but like believable and really likable character. Matthew McConaughey just nails it. Like I loved him. Like that whole movie was so. And Colin Farrell, that whole like restaurant.
I forgot about Colin Farrell. Yeah,
Colin Farrell's in it. Like what a good movie, man. The Gentleman is a fantastic flick. I highly recommend it.
Did you know they are doing a show about it, and they announced like a bunch of cast for it. I think they're about to start shooting.
I'll totally watch that. I love it.
And I think it is supposed to be connected. Like it's not like its own show. I think Guy Ritchie has a part in it and stuff.
Yeah, I love it. The Hugh Grant and Charlie Hunnam dynamic, which is a good chunk of the movie, is a story being told, and sometimes it's the real version and sometimes it may not be. Right. So like it's just really creative, and also their dialogue is, I mean, it's just it takes me back to the good old days of Snatch and stuff like that. Like it was
does.
So fun.
I agree.
It was so fun. I loved that one.
And the humor, the dark jokes that involve violence and stuff. It just it's old school Guy Ritchie. It was very refreshing.
I had a really good time with that one. I did finally watch The Gray Man, which is a blast. What a fun movie that is.
Such a fun time.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I got shot in the ass, Sharon.
Dude, Chris Evans. Speaking of having fun with the role, like Hugh Grant, Chris Evans had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of being able to be a jerk on screen again because he's been such a not tightly wound, but like buttoned up hero for so many years as Captain America, and I think he really had fun being a straight up, absolute brutal villain. And and that was a fun movie and great set pieces. The Russo brothers know how to make a freaking movie, and I just thought it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I love the entire thing where he's handcuffed to a park bench and there's a bunch of chaos going on. Such a great sequence, and then it leads to the car
into
chase.
The tram.
The tram and the car chase and stuff like that, and like just a brilliant setup. And
like
there's
moments where I get a lot of strong Bourne Identity vibe, and then there's some close combat where I'm kind of like, oh, it was a little bit John Wick, but not like there's a little bit of pieces of other action movies, but it's still its own thing. And I thought
like I just love the whole whenever a character calls out something that's stupid in the movie, like he's clearly handcuffed to a park bench and everybody's shooting around him, and and Chris Evans is like, can somebody shoot the guy handcuffed to a park? He's so mad, and I'm like, thank you, like at least somebody said it, because it. You know, you need to have somebody say something, call out something that's kind of dumb in the movie, or it I don't know, just hits me wrong, basically.
Yep, that one was really good. Billy Bob Thornton has a good role in that too. Bob. The only drawback really is just Ana de Armas is so ugly. She's hard to look at.
She's so damn.
Oh, dude, like seriously, like
she's hideous. So.
What a butterface, right?
She's actually what made me turn gay.
She's what.
Oh no, you're not vaxxed either.
Hey, by the way,
vaxxed against the gayness.
Obviously, we're being sarcastic. She's not ugly.
Yeah, she's she's naked a lot in that Marilyn Monroe movie, and I was like, put the clothes back on. This is disgusting. Let's see that.
But I did see that there's announced that she's gonna. I don't know if it's connected to the John Wick universe, but she's been attached to a project called Ballerina.
Yes,
I think it's Ballerina. Yeah. It's a spinoff. Yeah. It's a spinoff. Yeah.
It's
set in the same world. Yeah.
Is she in a John Wick movie and I just missed it? Is she in the fourth one? Maybe?
No, she hasn't been in any of them yet. Yeah.
Okay. And last one was Uncharted. Just wanted to mention that one. It's a video game related. We've talked about it. This movie started off like I legitimately in the first 10 minutes or so I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this because I just want to go play the game. Like I wasn't feeling it. Their vibe wasn't right. Their interaction was just off. It feels like everyone was phoning it in. But I just left the movie on and kept paying attention to it. And then it started to kind of pull me back in. And I actually thought by the end, I was like, all right, I kind of enjoyed their dynamic. The story was fun. And the action set pieces were just great.
Yeah.
So by the time
the movie was really good.
By the time it wrapped up, I was like, this is one of the better video game adaptation movies I've seen.
It feels like an Uncharted game. The only thing that's off, and it's no knock to him, I like him as Mark Wahlberg. I like him, but he's not
Sully?
Sal.
He's more Nathan Drake than he is Sully. Like so it felt more like two Nathan Drakes than
he was supposed to be Nathan Drake at some point.
I remember that.
Right.
I remember
years ago, yeah.
But I actually did like I went into the movie going, this is going to be so annoying, the dynamic between Nathan and Sully, between these two actors specifically. And then I came away from the movie kind of liking it, like as one of the better aspects of the movie. I thought their banter was actually quite funny.
Yeah, honestly, it takes a minute to get going.
It does
in terms of them being likable and the movie working, like their interactions working, but it does. It starts to work and then it clicks. So I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. All right, let's go through a couple of headlines here before we put a bow on this one. So Phil Spencer, guys, I don't know if you knew this, but it's been a quiet year for Xbox first party games. And so Phil's here to tell you that that's true. I don't know if you knew that.
He's here to tell us. Oh,
he's here to
tell you he's releasing another controller.
So there is only one game releasing this year, and it's Obsidian's Pentiment. That is an all-new game that's been developed internally at any Xbox game studio this year. That's the only game, first-party game.
Better be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Or
that's crazy. That doesn't mean there haven't been any console exclusives. There's been a handful, like As Dusk Falls. There was a major expansion for Forza 5. Age of Empires have been re-released. Grounded was officially released, even though it was in preview for a couple years. So
I still couldn't get into that game.
But it's been very quiet.
I'm just not ready for it yet, basically.
There's no avoiding the fact that it's been quiet. But next year, if, Kyle's not here to tell us things will get delayed, so I think they'll arrive on time. So next year, some of the things on the docket include...
But I did some digging.
I did a little digging.
God damn it.
The next year's slate includes things like Forza Motorsport, Redfall, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, and Starfield. And that's, of course, outside of anything we might see. And I'm not saying we would next year, but, the Fables and Halos, the Gears, we don't know what else they might release. Like, I think
Yeah.
Gears is probably the most likely, a Gear 6 potential. But even if it's just those, if those are the main first party games released, that's a solid year. If they get Forza Motorsport.
Isn't Stalker, the delay of Stalker, isn't that more related to the war? Or
Yeah. Oh, big time.
okay.
But
So
now
we
it's-
still don't know.
It's expected for 2023, but who knows, man?
Yeah.
Who knows? And then, of course, Starfield. So like those are, if they deliver, that's going to be a strong year then. But
I do feel like Redfall is coming for sure because I keep seeing more and more gameplay of that than anything from Starfield.
They just did another. They've done previews before, but they did another preview like about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was just kind of out of nowhere. It was just like, oh, by the way, Redfall's still here. We're going to talk about it. And that's a game that I'm extremely excited for.
That one looks cool.
It looks awesome.
So I'm telling you, this is why Phil brought up the whole price hike, and he's like, but not right now because it's coming when Redfall, Starfield.
It's coming when they start releasing.
Forza.
Redfall is an Unreal Engine 5 game. They are totally price hiking for that game. Yes.
Yeah. It's gonna be $1,000.
It's gonna.
So some
For
Game
part
Pass
one.
games. We just talked about a few of them: Legend of Tiangding, Ghost Song, Walking Dead, A New Frontier, and the Michonne complete season are both out on Game Pass. At least on PC they are. I think they might have already been on console. Football Manager: Return to Monkey Island is going to be hitting Game Pass on November 10th. Vampire Survivors, the console version, it's already on PC. I think Dan, you talked about that one briefly a while back.
Which one? Sorry.
Vampire Survivors. It's like that. It's like a bullet hell
No.
survival.
Not me. No.
Oh, I thought it was you.
Might have been something else, but.
And then Pentiment and Somerville are both supposed to come out on.
Oh, Somerville. That sounds familiar.
Yep.
That's the one I'm excited about. Yeah, because that's the one where it's pixelated, but it's like a family, and they're like trying to escape like through all these different I think it's like an alien. It almost gives me a vibe of like an alien invasion going on, and they're trying to like escape.
I know I've heard of this before. I know.
And I think somebody in this game says "Welcome to Earth."
Welcome to Earth. Yeah, it looks very.
You keep my quotes out your mouth.
It does not look uplifting. If you're looking for an uplifting game, Somerville does not look super uplifting. Ghostwire Tokyo has been rumored to hit Xbox in 2023, and that's because there was like a poster in the background, basically showing the workplace at Bethesda in their London office, and it showed not only Ghostwire Tokyo, the artwork, which makes sense. Obviously, it's a Bethesda game, but it actually listed it as Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So it listed those three. So
okay. So we're just making like an assumption, but I mean, it makes sense though. They own.
It's fair to assume it's going to release about a year after it released. I mean, that's kind of what they did with Deathloop. So about a year after its exclusivity, it hit the other console. So, so that's likely to come. Although there's nothing official yet. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope DLC is going to be coming out in a couple separate packs. The combat mode sounds interesting to me, so I'm curious to see what that one's about. I didn't get the season pass for this, so I'm gonna wait. This is a wait and see for me, even though I am really enjoying the main game. They are gonna. I mean, if you think about the first game, they had the big Donkey Kong DLC, and they released some other little pieces of content here and there. So we'll get some more of that. There's gonna be a new mysterious foe and on some enchanting planet. Sounds amazing. For mid next year. So they'll do what they do with most of their major games. They'll have a couple waves of DLC. Support going,
and it sounds like they're all being anticipated at least for next year.
Yep.
Nothing bleeding over into 2024.
Yep.
At least so far.
So there's that.
Sorry, real quick, because I had shared that in the thumbnail. Derek, did you talk about Bayonetta 2?
No.
I didn't even remember. Okay, all right. So I need to. Never mind. Okay, my apologies. Continue. I
don't think any of us have spent more time with 3, and at least not enough to talk about it. And I finished 2, but I had actually mentioned that last week that I was essentially at the end. I was wrapping it up.
Oh, okay.
But I think I actually finished it after we recorded last week. I bumped it down to easy and just wrapped up that game. So
sometimes that's just what you got to do.
That's it. PlayStation Plus subscribers have dropped by nearly 2 million users. Now, let me put this in context. It was like 145, and now it's 143. So like, it's a small percentage, but it's still significant. 2 million's a lot.
But the reason is really the most important thing, Tim.
Yeah.
The
What
reason.
is the reason? Tell me the
Oh,
reason.
did you not have that there?
No, you tell me the reason. I want to hear it from you.
Oh,
Tell me
well,
fun.
it's what the issue is. It's we're all just we're so interested in going outside. We want to
Yeah.
go outside and play.
Interesting.
We
Yeah.
want to play outside with our toys. We want to go to the playground and play on the flashlight tag, right? Remember flashlight tag? We love
Flashlight
going outside
tag.
playing
Yeah.
flashlight tag.
Yeah.
Capture the
So-
flag.
Kids haven't
Maybe.
played outside in 10 years, but yes.
Fucking stupid ass Jim Ryan with his dumb nonsense. Like, dude, shut the hell up. Enough of your nonsense,
It's like,
Christ.
do you remember the pandemic? Everyone was inside. Now they're going outside.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
our subscribers are down by 2 million. That makes sense. But again,
Moron.
it's not at all tanked by any stretch. I don't want to make sound. And
No.
their overall revenue is up, apparently. This is according to them. And they expect to recoup subscribers over the next few months because people are going to go back inside.
Right, yeah, it's
So-
gonna get cold out,
It
and
is.
people are gonna go inside. So.
People are going to go back inside. It's going to be fine.
I
That's
do
how that
think
works.
it is the timing of it is not suspect, but it's pretty telling that it's because of the restructure of their
Yes.
PS Plus
Mm.
pricing.
It's obvious.
What have you? That's clearly what it is.
I
you know?
mean, they're going to have to revisit that and decide, do we want these convoluted tiers or do we just want to have like a PS Plus subscription that's a set price and you either have it or you don't? Make it like Game Pass.
yeah.
You can do tiers if you want to. If you feel like you want to like hand out little bits of it, that's fine. If you want to do if that's working for you, but I think the smart play is going to be here's what
I just
PlayStation
really
Plus.
think I don't mind if they have like there should have only been 2 tiers. There should be if you just basically want online and discounts, that's your base tier. And then if you want any catalog, it's that next tier up. This 3 tiers is absolutely stupid. Every time I get an advertisement on my PlayStation 5, do you want to upgrade? I'm like, which one does which? I don't know which one does which. And I'm like, I'm not interested, so I'll just stick to standard.
Yeah. 2 tiers easy to follow for sure.
So I'm actually educated on it. I'm just saying, like, I'm not studying it all the time. So when it does advertise, do you want to upgrade? I'm like, but why would I upgrade? And so I'll go look and see, did they add anything I'd be interested in? And I'm like, well, I don't know which one's in which tier. This is stupid. I'm out. This is dumb. You should have just had 2 tiers.
It's convoluted. It convolutes the whole thing, you know. So.
Plus, they did a really, really terrible job of supporting the top tier with like actual legit like classic games people would care about.
Or new
Dude,
releases.
Yeah, but for years they were like with backwards compatibility. When people were like, "We want backwards compatibility," they did that dumb PlayStation 3 era bullshit of like being like, "Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that." It's like, dude, literally
Yes,
Xbox for years went out of their way and tinkered with their hardware and engineered like the backward. Like just figure it out. Enough of your bullshit. Enough of your excuses. Just figure it out. Game preservation is super important. We're losing these old games. I have to do nonsense wizardry when I'm streaming because I can't access these games easily.
Yeah.
So just figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't even think I've used my PS5 since I played Stray, and that was also that was the only PS Plus like day one launch game that I'm aware of, at least the only notable one. And I haven't used my PS5 since then. Sorry.
I haven't been
But
console
offended.
gaming for a long time.
I'm mainly PC. I use the Steam Deck. I use my Switch, and I use the Xbox for like TV games.
Streaming, yeah.
So, sorry. Anyway, that's also because by the way, the TV watching apps on the PlayStation 5 they just function way worse compared to the Xbox one.
do
I
they?
don't know why. At least for me, they do. Like they crash more and they're harder to navigate to. Maybe I need to go in and fix my own navigation now that they updated the UI a little bit. But anyway, I just use the Xbox. It's easier. Last of Us HBO show, speaking of needing to resubscribe to HBO here pretty soon, is going to premiere in January 15th.
I'm so excited, dude.
It's
man.
happening.
I'm so excited for Ron Swanson as Bill. Oh, it's gonna be so good.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, I totally forgot about that. Holy shit. That's gonna yeah.
Yeah.
So that's coming up soon.
I can't wait to get more I've been loving their marketing for this so far because they've barely been showing anything. Like even the trailer they dropped was a teaser and we barely got spoken words. So like I'm excited to see more and more footage as we're coming towards release date.
Yep. Yeah, I think this is going to be a hit. My expectations
Just
are
gonna
high for
watch it.
this.
I'm not gonna watch trailers.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid
Just like
any
I
more.
won't watch anything on God of War. I don't really care. I already know
Yeah.
I'll like it.
I actually
sold
stopped,
on it, yeah.
I've stopped
Yeah.
listening. There was 2 podcasts this week, 2 gaming podcasts that were, you know, they've all finished God of War already because everyone had super early access to it and they wanted to talk about it. And they're like, don't worry, this will be spoiler free. And right away they dove into some what I think are like pretty detailed experiences. In the
Freaking
beginning. So I
Channing
was like,
Tatum
"Done.
is a troll in it and stuff.
I'm done." Channing Tatum troll. It's actually his face on a big troll monster. Oh man. He definitely.
Yeah,
danced
I've
the
only watched the videos that Sony has been doing a pretty good job, or at least Santa Monica, whoever's in charge of the
Just like
marketing, has
their
been doing a pretty good
trailers.
job. But the way that they're doing their trailers is like, they're actually just doing behind the scenes vignettes of like, here's our logic behind the character design for this one, and that's it. They're not really telling you much as
Yeah.
far as story goes or what the world looks like. They're just saying, here's our logic behind our choices, and that's
Yep.
about it.
Yep. So
Still
I am
pretty
excited for
insightful, but, yeah.
excited for that HBO show, Last of Us. Excited for God of War next week. There's a lot of good Sony stuff going on, so I don't want to sound all negative on them, but I am going to get negative here for a second. The PSVR 2 is launching in February. The tech itself is exciting. I'm curious. I would love to try it out because I really did enjoy PSVR 1. It felt like a first draft of a really cool thing. You know what I mean? Like almost there, but needs some tweaks. And this is sounding like the tech's gonna be there, except it's $550. And I'm like, I'm not. That's more than the PS5. I'm not gonna do this. So at least not now. Maybe later. But that includes the headset and 2 VR2 Sense controllers.
I mean, I think it's a good price.
I'm not
I
saying the
understand.
value isn't there. I'm just saying I'm
Yeah.
not investing in that right now.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I have 2 answers. Do I think objectively it's a good price for what you're getting? Absolutely, when you compare it to the rest of the market. I just, as somebody who's owned PSVR, I've owned both the Quests. VR is not that fun. Most of the stuff's gimmicks until you can make like an actual game that I will sit and play in your headset for 60 hours.
Right.
That's a
You're
lot
not
too.
fun
Yeah,
because most of the time the movement and even like the Horizon game that they're like really trying to advertise for this new headset, I'm like, this doesn't look fun. Why don't I just go play Forbidden West, which is actually fun? This looks like another like they've obviously advanced it a little bit and made it a little bit better, but it's still a gimmick. It's not just this open world game that I feel like I can just explore and play and it be comfortable and fun. And I just don't think they're there yet.
Yeah,
Maybe someday they will. Maybe it is just a gimmick. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the hard balance. I think is if you want to make it more than a gimmick, if you want to make it a real gaming experience, the price is only going to go up because the technology gets more and more intense. The requirements do. So I get the balance they're trying to strike there. They did announce 11 new more games. I don't know if they're all launch games. Some of these are. But maybe even most of them. But they announced the Dark Pictures Switchback VR. They announced Crossfire Sierra Squad, the Light Brigade, Cities VR Enhanced Edition, Cosmonius High, Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue, Jurassic World Aftermath Collection, which I think is 2 games, might be 3. I think it's 2 games. Pistol Whip VR, Zenith: The Last City, After the Fall, and Tentacular. After the Fall, by the way, it kind of looks a little bit like Division, kind of Days Gone, a little bit of that vibe. I don't know if it's any good. That's just kind of the vibe that I got. So they're gonna have some software for it for sure. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm sure it will sell fine. I don't see it being a hit at that price, but I could be way off base.
I think it will be a hit. I do. I don't think it will be, the greatest selling thing, but I think the PSVR was a hit. And I think this will see similar.
Pre-orders start November 15th. If that interests you, you can pre-order that starting in a couple weeks. Oh, actually, it's like a week and a half.
Yeah, you have to register though if you want to really have a shot, because I think it will sell out. Yeah.
So EA is going to be making some more Marvel games, which is fine by me. I want some more single-player Marvel games. So Motives Iron Man game, which we heard was announced a month or so ago. Still in the pre-production phase. It's still a ways out. Don't forget, that's the executive producer. It was the guy who worked on Guardians of the Galaxy at Eidos Montreal. So I have high hopes for that Iron Man game. I'm looking forward to that. They're also supposedly making this open world Black Panther game, which is in the early stages of development, but it's being headed. It's a new studio that has it's being led by a guy who worked on the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games from Monolith. So
I hope some of those mechanics are put in the Wakanda. That would be awesome, dude.
that'd be cool. Some
like
kind
the
of
villain,
Nemesis.
Nemesis system, yeah.
That'd be cool. So they have at least 3 games is what they've said. Their partnership with Marvel, EA and Marvel. So that's 2 of them, Iron Man and Black Panther. We don't
Gives
know.
me a little more hope than the Square and Marvel partnership, that's for sure.
Yeah, which is funny because EA has been the big bad for so long in the gaming industry, like all the but they've kind of quietly become a relatively reliable publisher. You know, they're not always developing the games. A lot of times they're publishing games made by really good developers. And so let's see what happens with some of these.
I think a lot of the issues people have with EA is how they direct people to develop games under them.
You're right.
So they have no problem funding good games, but for instance, to bring up Dragon Age was always supposed to be a single player RPG game by BioWare. And they clearly, once some of the older people from BioWare left, they started going, especially even with Inquisitions, multiplayer. And nobody cared about the multiplayer on Dragon Age Inquisitions. I'm not saying it was bad. Nobody cares. They don't buy that game for that. They buy the game for the single player experience. And that's what they lost focus on with Anthem and games like that. They've done a poor job of really figuring out what customers actually want and going in that direction instead of going into everything needs to be multiplayer, everything needs to be microtransactions, and over flooding the market with that bull crap.
Yeah, they doubled down on that for a minute there, and it really gave them at least everyone that I talked to had a bad taste in their mouth when it came to EA. They're like, ugh, EA is making it great. It was that kind of a reaction.
That's also why with the new Dragon Age, it's taken long. It probably would have already been out now, to be honest. But they kept going back and forth and all the kind of like reports of it, like being a game as a service, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, because I think at first it was
down what it was supposed to be.
That, and then they made the announcement like, "Hey guys, guess what? We're making it a single player experience." Oh, you mean what you should have made it?
What it should have been from the start. Eidos Montreal is reportedly working on a new Deus Ex game. So thanks, Embracer Group.
People have no idea how much I love that franchise.
Yeah, and they're helping Xbox with Fable, and they are developing a separate new IP outside of Deus Ex. So they're working on some stuff.
Embracer is embracing them, that's for sure.
Yay! You know who they're not embracing?
Aww.
The Hitman Go studio. So Enola is gone. So they're being shut down. So
that's very disappointing, man. Hitman Go is actually really good.
It's a great little game.
I thought those games did pretty good. That's why they made like a Tomb Raider.
The Tomb Raider one. I didn't like the Tomb Raider one as much, but Hitman was definitely more my speed.
Hitman just had this really cool board game, like like chess kind of a thing. It was cool.
Yeah, you had to really think through your moves and stuff. Like you were constantly going back and forth from the same space to make sure the enemies were lined up right and stuff before.
I liked that game.
Yeah, it was a real thinker of a game. Yeah. It was fun.
It almost looked like soap carvings or something. Like kind of these little white statues of every. Like I just thought it was very cool. Reminded me. Do you ever see the opening for the show Black Sails, where they do a lot like zoom in on the soap carvings during the opening of Black Sails of the Pirates? Anyway,
I never saw that.
Yes, I think so. Doesn't Game of Thrones kind of do something?
It's one of the cooler TV show openings. I highly recommend it. It almost looks like someone has a bunch of figurines and carvings on a desk or something, and they're just filming it real close up. It's a cool look. Atomic Heart, which by the way is looking wacky and awesome.
Man,
it's also footage
from
there's a footage from this boss fight that someone intercut with a scene from The Incredibles, where Mr. Incredible is fighting the big roly thing. That Syndrome keeps upgrading to fight against him, and there's a boss in Atomic Heart that looks a lot like that, and it looks great. It looks really cool. That's coming out February 21st. That game looks bonkers and
perfect. Right when there's nothing coming out. So that's
right in that window.
Thank God.
Perfect.
Thank God.
Yeah.
We need Kyle to delay that one.
Kyle, get to
Kyle's
work on
not.
that one, would you? EA, by the way, speaking of EA, is planning to launch a major IP before April. This is because of their kind of fiscal year plans. And so during their financial report, they had listed this major new IP was all that said. It didn't say what it was. So it's a slide during their showing their game slate for their fiscal year that ends at the end of March. So March 31st is when that, and they're still looking at Q4, which is January through March, to release a major IP. So, and this is not including the Dead Space remake, Wild Hearts, which is already been revealed. That's separate. That's listed separately. That kind of Monster Hunter-esque game. A couple of sports games, PGA Tour, Super Mega Baseball 4, I guess that would be. But some people think, oh, it doesn't say major new IP. It says major IP. A lot of people think this is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's the only one that we kind of know of that's in the works to be published by them, and could be, potentially far enough in development for them to be targeting first quarter, but who knows? And that's not the first one, the Fallen Order, released in holiday.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a fall game or something, right?
So
like
my
holiday.
expectation was that holiday 2023 would be Jedi Survivor. That's kind of what I was.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought when they revealed it. I was like,
so who
it's
knows?
like in a year.
Could be. According to Jeff Grubb of GameSpot, of Giant Bomb, I guess, during their podcast, and I actually don't know his success rate with all of these rumors, because he's the source of a lot of insider information, rumors that come through. I don't know what his success rate is, but he is saying yes, it's definitely Jedi Survivor, and they're planning to release it in March 2023, and they're going to start hyping it up around Game Awards time. So who knows? I mean, if we start seeing trailers of Game Awards, we could probably expect a March release date for that, which would be
amazing.
really cool.
Oh man,
yeah.
Q1 of 2023 is going to be stupid if that's what it is. Oh my God.
But even if it is announced for that, we all know it's going to be delayed. So
delayed forever. Yep.
Don't get too excited.
But
hey, you know what's awesome?
Star Wars Jedi delayed is more like it.
One of my favorite things that happened is last week we were all talking about Parasite Eve and how Square might be potentially bringing that back because of this trademark for symbiogenesis. It's not Parasite Eve. It is this playable NFT collectible art experience.
Oh, cool! I'm excited about
that. Dude, I wasn't
excited.
You're part of the problem, Derek. You're part of the problem.
So this is so funny.
Anything that vexes Dan.
Oh, that's
I guess that's what the thing is behind Derek is an NFT. I don't know what it is, so I assume that's
it might as well be.
That is so funny to me.
Yes, I mean, and honestly, this is actually this is actually more offensive than the other Square Enix thing that will pop up in a second, or we can do that next if you want. Whatever you want, Tim. You're in charge. But
well, let's do that. Yeah. So people on the internet think that Naoki Yoshida is racist now, and the reason is because they're stupid. Dan,
more at 8.
Tune in at 5 to hear.
I wanted to make it like the guy from Parks and Rec who's like, people think this because
they're stupid.
I really don't think people think this. By the way, I really think
they do. They do.
No, man, I'm telling you, I get all this crap on YouTube and it's on the right-wing side, so I'm not just making fun of liberals, where they'll be like, woke Netflix does this and the people are mad. And I'm like, what people, buddy? Nobody. It's like 3 people on Twitter.
But when I say
on Twitter.
Right, but what I'm saying, right, exactly. It could be just a handful of people. The point is it's them trying to bridge that over from like, and again, you know what? I'm not from Japan. I don't actually know their culture. I don't think they actually have a lot of.
It's not important that you understand their culture. So you're
no. Right. I'm just no. I understand. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. For them, it's kind of like, all right, well, we're gonna research this from the perspective of we're trying to do this as like an old medieval Europe type of setting. That's kind of what Yoshida mentioned, and he gave like a really long-winded answer. This was an IGN interview. They asked him, in regards to diversity in the game, can we expect to see black characters in Final Fantasy 16 or people of color in general? And then he just gave like this super, super long answer. And yeah, people, it was just very long-winded. I honestly, it probably just hurt him more in the long run, because then everyone just took it as like, oh, so you're not going to put people of color in this because you're trying to sort of hold on, let me just
well, the line that makes me laugh is where he says, if we did this, even though we do think it's important, we believe that doing that would cause a violation of the narrative boundaries we originally set for ourselves. And I'm like, dude, you are talking in these dumb circles right now. Like, just say that's not the vision we had for the game, even though I do think diversity is important, as you know, whenever you can include it. This is just the vision we had for this game, and it wasn't done with
I know. It was like Dan said, long-winded.
Long-winded, and it sounds like you're trying to beat around the bush of saying, like, we just wanted to choose a story that we wouldn't have to put anybody that's darker than us in. Like, it sounds bad.
But the problem is
just say this is the vision for our game, and none of it was done with any malice.
And I agree with you in hindsight. But also, this guy, I'm gonna guess. I don't have proof. I didn't read all this stuff. I'm gonna guess when he did this interview with IGN, he wasn't like, "Oh, they're gonna ask me a woke question."
Caught him off guard.
So a lot of this problem is I have more issue with IGN than his response. Sure. Why are you asking that dumbass question?
Well, that's because
IGN,
you
want. We all know why they're asking that question. It's a trap. It's
for brownie points, internet brownie points. Yeah,
it's internet brownie points. It's to get clicks. It's to make a story out of a non-story. So that's what they're doing.
And by the way, when Derek says to get clicks, he means like when the woke people like snap their fingers in approval of things. That kind of clicks.
I want to just kind of grab some of the, just so we have like straight from his mouth. I mean, there's a lot of it's on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but like this one section.
Please clarify that you're not white before you do this. You're not allowed to do it if you're white.
So like this one part, due to underlying geographical, technological, and geopolitical constraints of the setting, Valestia, which is the name of the world, was never going to realistically be diverse as, say, a modern day Earth, or even Final Fantasy XIV, which has a lot of different, there's literally like cat people and freaking dragon people in that, like there's all these creatures and everything. You can change the tone of your skin in that game. That the entire planet and moon worth of nations, races, and cultures at its disposal. The isolated nature of this realm, however, does end up playing a large part in the story of one of the reasons Valestia's fate is tied to the rest of the world. So he's saying it's like this very like isolated area where, yeah, I don't think at any point in this he's saying, no, there are no people of color. There are none. He says that people will be disappointed because it's not a balanced number of people. But then he's also mentioning that it's like this area that this game takes place in is very isolated. So I guess there just happens to be more white looking people.
Quick question.
Still long to me. Still very long.
Tales of Arise. Did it have black characters, Asians, Chinese?
Well, I mean, I feel like the default animation is Japanese, Chinese, like.
So they're all white.
I think the most honest. So to me, and this is the smallest part, I actually put it right in the on the doc. To me, the most important thing, which I think is literally what everybody in real life should be doing, and it's the opposite, and that's why this shit happens, because everyone worries about their goddamn checkboxes, is Yoshida also said, we simply want the focus to be less on the outward appearance of our characters and more on who they are as people. It's literally.
But are they black? Do you have any black characters?
Like, and listen, I'm not a black man or whatever, but like, okay, yeah, I know, shocking. Spoiler.
Just identify as one, and then we can move.
But I'm literally an immigrant. I was born in Portugal. Where's my Portuguese immigrant protagonist in video games? Like, guess what? I don't care actually, because it's just a fucking video game. Like, why are people so fixated on having representation in a video? I don't understand. I'm not saying it's wrong for them to feel that way, but then to get mad and then like start hurling insults at this person.
Why are we nitpicking games? That's why I asked about Tales of Arise.
Well,
like,
sure.
You would literally have to go through every game. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't remember anybody of color in that game. They're all white.
No one asked. That's why. No one asked. They asked Yoshida.
Nobody cares. That's what I'm saying. It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
They pick certain games, and it's just ridiculous.
But that's what I'm trying to
say. I guess The Last of Us. Why are the main characters in both games just white? Like, I know that they have other characters of color, but why just the main? Like, I think you could ask the same.
They all die.
The thing that I'm curious about are these people that insist that all these checkboxes need to be checked. Like, because they'll say things like, "Well, why can't they just do it then? Why can't they just do it?" It's like you're just answering a question with a question, though. The bottom line is these people are making a video game. They made choices. I get that they didn't do things that in your head you're like, I want this. This is what I want in a video. I get it. Whatever. whatever. It annoys you. I respect that. But like, don't then start attacking the person, like, or the developers or whatever. Like, it's just it. I don't understand. Like,
I understand why it's annoying. I actually don't have a problem with them asking that question. Maybe they were genuinely curious. Maybe they wanted points. Whatever. Like, they can ask whatever question they want. It's up to him to answer it in a way that makes it news or not. I think like they're gonna ask the questions they're gonna ask, and the way you answer it, if it's just straightforward and boring, like
then
it
does not resonate as much. Yeah,
it's not gonna get. But if you dance around it and you try to explain it away, it's gonna start raising eyebrows. Like, why is he? What's he dancing
talking
around
so much
here?
about that?
I mean, I have to disagree. I still have I'm saying
I don't have a problem with the question. I ask whatever question you want.
What they want to do. I'm saying the motive behind it is what I have a problem with. That nobody should be asking these questions, because I'm more in Dan's camp that let people make what they want. If an all-white team wants to create, I'm not saying they're white, by the way, I'm talking in general. An all-white team wants to make an all-white game, do it. If an all-black team wants to make an all-black game, do it. If an all-black team wants to make a white game, do it. Do whatever the freak you want. Stop checking off boxes. I don't care if you have it open to everybody. It's your choice. There's also business behind this, and the facts are this. White protagonists, and more dominantly male protagonists, do better and are more successful in movies, shows, and games. All in entertainment, you are going to sell better if you have somebody in the lead character who's white and predominantly a male. Those are all the numbers and facts. You can try to start shifting that casually by bringing in more minority characters, which is what a lot of these games do, till you can eventually do what they do now. And that's, they're getting away with releasing a lot of games with female characters, and they're still successful. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Allow that to happen. That's why I have a problem with the question. The question wasn't asked because they generally care. It was asked because they're trying to trap him. And the reason I'm defending him more than you guys are is because that's not what he's expecting. He's just expecting to talk about his game. He's also foreign. I doubt this is a issue or a topic they cover all the time.
It's like Bill Burr, where it's like, what did you think he thought?
The Duck Dynasty guy? The Duck Dynasty?
Yeah, when they asked the Duck Dynasty guy, like,
oh my God, I love that.
He's like 80. He like was raised in Sunday school in the deep South in the
Yes.
40s. Like,
What is so
think
funny
he
to
thought?
me is like picturing, I assume an American journalist asking a Japanese
The
creator
translator.
this, and then
The
like,
translator.
and then like, what is it? Is it, does a regular Japanese person walk around Japan going, there are not enough black people here? Like,
exactly.
they don't give a shit. They don't think about it.
He's not expecting that question. So him trying to dance around it, I guarantee his dancing around it was him nervous, and he's just like, oh shit,
Yeah,
we don't have
definitely.
them because of and that's why he looked stupid.
I don't think there's a really right or wrong here. Like him trying to answer in depth, like it should be seen as this is a guy who tried to give your question, which could be seen as rude or a trap. That's fine if you want to see it that way. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know what their motivation was. It's a fair assumption to make, but I think
It's a trap.
like him attempting to answer it that in depth, you got to give him at least credit for like, let me think through your question and try to give you a thoughtful response.
mean,
so you have to give him credit there.
Again,
but in this day and
medieval
age, the more you talk, the more you are likely to
of
step in
course,
some
of
crap.
course.
Less is more in relationships.
So make
and
it
in
boring and straightforward.
Less
Like
is
If
more.
you exceed 140 characters, they're gonna start asking questions.
I know, it's true.
and like that, yeah, like you
Oh
were
my
saying.
God. So were you guys kept up and up on the Rooster Teeth drama at all, or?
No.
I
No.
paid attention to
But it
some.
was like every day there was somebody that worked at Rooster Teeth or worked there currently that posted something from a notes app that was like, here's my experience. And it was like 4 screenshots of notes apps. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, the more you talk, the more I'm like, oh, this guy's a problem or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just
But
succinct, guys. Keep your, please, keep your tweets, whatever, succinct, man. Let us understand.
like you were saying though, Derek, like let the writing itself should come from a natural place. If you want to naturally create a story with a female, And that's where it's coming from. It's coming from a genuine place. You're like, I want to tell a story about this strong female character, or this black man, or this trans whatever, this binary person. That's fine if it's coming from a natural place. But like, these people get mad because you're not checking off these boxes of just like, give me my boxes, check off my boxes.
So I think a good boring answer would be play by their rules. Like, play by the rules of folks who find this, who have a set of rules. Like, you have to have diversity, and if you don't, your problem. I would go back to the other rule that they have, which is not being addressed here, which is, if you're going to write a story about a character that has a certain gender or race, you better be of that gender or race, or you can't represent them correctly. So I would just go like, we're writing characters that we know and that our vision for this game is, and it represents us. And we'd love playing experiences that represent characters of other developers. Like,
you know what their response would be
there and go, "Where's your black employees?"
Yeah, why aren't you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
It keeps going. That's why you got. That's why I said I get it. I'm not saying that you're wrong and I'm right, even though that's how I talk, as if I'm right and you're all wrong.
It's not a wrong or right. It's just
what
like,
I'm saying is
here's what he
that
could have tried.
The reason I have a problem with questions like that is I know what they're trying to do, and it's just wrong in general. I don't want that in. I love video games. I don't want your politics in my video games. I don't want your woke shit in my video games. Leave video games as video games. I'm not saying I'm against diversity. Have diversity. I've never complained about like, oh, why am I playing as Batgirl? Why didn't you just give me 4 male characters? I don't care about that stuff. You want to put that stuff in there, do it. Don't ask questions and call out certain video games, then not hold all of them to the same standard over stuff you're not even creating. Like, who are you? You're a nobody. And that's what if he was an arrogant prick like me, that's exactly what he said. Like, who are you? Why are you asking me this question? Go make a game.
Also, like I said back a moment ago about being an immigrant, literally, I don't understand, and I know we're just like 4 white cis males, so I guess our opinions don't matter, but like, what is this obsession with representation? What is that doing for you? I don't understand.
I mean, as far as video games go, I get not understanding it, but as far as like other mediums, I get it. Like, if there's underrepresented communities and stuff, then they're going to continue to be underrepresented.
Just to speak from experience, we have an adopted kiddo from Ethiopia, and when we saw Black Panther, my eyes were opened to what representation can mean to someone. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. I understand why representation is important, because then his eyes lit up and his enjoyment of that movie went to a level that none of the other kids understood, or even I understood. But I had a great talk with him about it. I was just like, dude, this is mind blowing. Like, I finally kind of get I have a little bit more insight than I had before. Not than anybody else, but just than I had before. So that's why I don't mind a question like that. But I also don't mind someone answering it with, we don't feel like this is just not the vision we had for this game or this movie or this show. And these are the characters that we decided to write. And we love all the kinds of stories of diversity that are out there. And this is the one that we wrote. And leave it at that. And if they keep pushing, then you have the right to say, like, I don't want to keep it. These questions you're just trying to trap me, and let's just move on to other questions.
This has nothing to do with the game.
Right.
So I guess I'm just more specifically being, again, attached to the checkbox thing, the forced representation, because again, that's what it comes across as. It's these people complain about representation, so it's like, well, they're pushing it, so it's forced.
Well,
and it's
requiring it for every product. That's where it gets ridiculous. You can't require it for every product.
That's the point. There's nobody sitting here saying, "Hey, black little kids," and I'm just using blacks as an example. We're talking about all minority races here. Black kids don't matter. They don't need to be represented. Just keep it white. Nobody's saying that. What we're saying is, create it organically. Hire really good black or minority employees, and they'll start writing those characters in because of checkbox. They'll do it because that's what they want.
No, I'm
and
with
that's
you.
what they identify as. That's what they like, and that's where you'll get the best.
I think we're mostly on characters. We're mostly on the same page with this. I think at some point it'll level out. Right now we're just in a phase where the wave is pushing one way. It'll level out.
That organic approach that you're saying, Derek, then it's not, no one's going to be, from a really angry place asking about representation, because then it's just a normal thing. Then it's just a thing that exists.
Yeah.
So
I
then
think
no one's
there's-
talking about representation.
I
It's
think
just like,
there's
oh
more
yeah,
there's more diversity and representation in every entertainment medium than ever before, and it's growing. And I think that's fantastic. I just told you guys before we started recording, I did a quick check of like, Derek, you mentioned male versus female protagonists in games versus, and then a third column for player choice or ensemble or unknown, and it was like the male versus female was tied. It was like almost the exact same number of games that had
That's
that
not
central
surprising
character.
at all.
And then the other one where it's you pick, like Elden Ring, for example, you create your character, male or female, like that kind of thing. It was like double, both of them. So that's the bigger one. So I think we're in a time where there's more diversity than ever. And I think asking a creator why they aren't representing things in a game it truly does feel like a challenge. Like you're challenging why you created the thing the way you did because you might have done it wrong. It'd be like asking Jordan Peele why he doesn't write more stories about white people. It's like,
It's not his experience. Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you asking him that? Don't ask him that. Like,
yeah, just let him. And if he did, then great.
then
he
let him.
just,
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know.
So I think asking a creator, and especially in any kind of art form, when they're creating a thing, they're telling a story, they're giving you an experience, an emotional reaction, like challenging them on why they didn't do it in a way that you think could appeal to more people or to you more. I think that's
It's
that's a
like-
problem. I agree with
We
that.
talk about, we've heard like how mansplaining's terrible. I don't like
I
Amerisplaining.
love mansplaining.
I hate Amerisplaining, where it's like, oh, we're gonna tell the rest of the world how they should act and behave and what they should put in their content. That's exactly that's why I hate the IGNs and all them now. They're all about telling the rest of the world what is right and what the standards are. And if you're not hitting that, then you're wrong, you're racist, you're a bigot, you're this. And it's like, no, they're a different culture. They're not screwed up like us. Well, some of them are, but not all of them are screwed up like us. We're not as great as we think we are. I'm sorry, but we're not.
Maybe you're not. I think I'm great.
Well,
I'm the best of the bunch. I don't know what you're talking about.
You guys
You're
all
all
fucking.
gay.
You guys
This
all
is good.
fucking suck.
I thought
You
this
guys are
was good.
terrible. The worst.
I thought this was a good.
I just say, imagine asking the writer of Banshees of Inisherin why you didn't include black people or Mexicans in your Irish movie.
Yeah.
It's like,
stupid. It's
you know
so
what I mean?
dumb.
It'd be like, what?
not
There's
well
4
thought out
people
at
in
all.
the movie. Like,
Why didn't you include Argentinians? Why are you so racist against Argentinians?
yeah, eventually you would have to drill down at a certain point and be like, oh, there's not nearly enough of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Turkish people in movies now. It's like, we're there now? That's where we
Yeah.
are?
I don't know. I just feel like what the game's about, like the characters, the combat, the world, that matters more than like, well,
that's-
what
yeah,
races
that's-
are in this game.
That's why I struggle to understand, not that I don't understand it, but there's definitely a struggle when people ask about representation in video games. I'm like, there are so many more components to video games than just watching it, you know, or like a TV show or a movie, you know, and these aren't real people that you're playing as, you know, I mean, except for those visual novels or whatever that are movies, basically. So, I mean, it's totally different. Like, it's just, I can't wrap my brain around the question sometimes when people ask it. I'm like, it makes sense to ask it for a movie director. Like, if you ask Woody Allen, why are you only using white people? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you have a
Yeah,
point there. He makes
if I had
3
if
movies
I
a
had
year.
my way, people wouldn't ask questions like that because of what it does. But the reason I said earlier, I don't have a problem with that. It's like I feel like that reporter or IGN themselves or whoever, like eventually it comes back to bite you. If you're always the one, like you're going to be trusted
Yeah.
less. You're losing, like to me, that's why I don't have a problem with it because it kind of helps me weed out like who am I going to listen to, who am I going to read, who do I care about. Like if that's really what's important to you as a reporting entity and you're allowing your reporters to do that, to make that a priority, I'm less likely to be someone who reads and follows.
I do agree with you on that, and I do think.
So that's why I said earlier, I don't have a problem. I didn't finish that thought way earlier. I don't have a problem with that question because I think it's going to play out for them the way it's going to play out. Just like if you answer it in a bad way, it's going to play out a certain way. So it's
Using like, and G4 is an extreme version of this. Like they were doomed from the get-go. So I'm not saying that everything that happened was what caused them to end. I'm not dramatic like some of these YouTubers out there, but using that as an example, and I've seen it with other places, like GameSpot lost a lot of readers, a lot of people. They're not as big as they used to be. Like if you go look at their numbers, they're not as big as they used to be. And their entire staff basically was weeded out and kicked out because they were so woke. They were talking down to all of their followers. Like every video game was a political
Who is this? GameSpot?
GameSpot was
Okay.
really bad about it. And I just think when you look at that stuff and you look at like the G4s and stuff like that, you do get applause. Like you do. You have people that love Adam Scheffler. Is that his name? Not Adam
Sessler?
Sessler. I loved Adam Sessler before he became a complete libtard. Now I can't stand the guy. But when he was just a games journalist reviewer, I liked him a lot. And then when he started opening his mouth about his politics, blocking people and treating people like trash, that's when I was like, I no longer don't like you, and I don't want to support anything that has to do with you. And my point is, that's how you lose long term. I'm not talking short term. You'll lose 100, 1,000 people. But over time, as you continue to hear the same narrative, the same shots, the same dumb questions, the same checkbox bullcrap, you lose a lot of followers, and then you start seeing the business impact.
Yeah.
And then that's when you start to see adjustments. The same thing with Netflix, where the CEO came out and said, "Don't work here if you can't accept all our content."
Yeah.
And I totally agree with him. Like, if you want to have woke stuff on there, have woke stuff on there. If you want to have Christian stuff on there, have Christian stuff there. You want to have black stuff, gay stuff, whatever you want to have on there, just make it for everybody, and nobody should be whining and crying about it. And that's the way it should be. Let the creators create what they want to create, but don't force them to create something you think they should to check off.
And then you, as the one who runs Netflix, can look at the numbers and be like, "Hey, this is not doing numbers."
The audience decides.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
Right. That's how it should work. And that's how it typically does work. Although we don't usually say it as much anymore these days. Now it's much more. We don't usually talk about numbers because it makes it sound like you're an evil capitalist if you talk about things making money. But that's just the reality of it. Like I wouldn't want to invest in. That's why we do all things. Yeah, that's why we do all things. That's why we as human beings do things. You know, that's how we operate.
At the end of the day, it's for numbers.
It's what money. It's even down to your daily activities. I'm going to do the things that give me something in return, right? So I mean, it's just basic human living.
Companies in June in America are gay. In other parts of the world, they're not gay. It's so weird.
I still love the Willem Dafoe thing. Like, I'm a bit of a homosexual myself. Like, that's still one of my. It said like all companies in June, and it shows him talking to Peter and I'm a bit of a homosexual myself.
No, I'm a bit of a yeah.
But only in America. If you go overseas, we're not. We're straight.
Yeah.
We're
I
very
think it was
straight.
BMW who did that. They had like the rainbow thing.
It was
in America,
not just BMW. It was other ones
but
too.
Then like in
BMW
Middle
is
East,
a German company, isn't it?
Yeah. In like some other some other countries, like they weren't doing anything pride related. And yeah. Anyway,
most of it's for
It's all business. It's all business. It's fine. All right. So the last thing is Kojima. Speaking of money, speaking of business, that dude has had so many opportunities to make so much more money. Obviously, he's doing well. Okay, he's doing fine, but he could be doing better than most humans on the planet if he would accept some of these offers that he says have come in. He says on his recent podcast, here's his quote: "Every day I'm approached by offers all over the world to buy our studio. Some of those offers are ridiculously high prices, but it's not that I want the money. I want to make what I want to make. That's why I created the studio. So as long as I'm alive, I don't think I will ever accept those offers."
I get it. You know, he's been through the ringer. He's been through the opposite end of that, where a company tells him what he can and can't make. So he's never going to sell. He's never going to do that. Yeah.
So he shouldn't have to. He's unique. It doesn't mean I have to like everything he does or like who he is as a person. But you have to respect how unique he is and that he is an outside thinker and he does things his way.
You know what's funny about that? His games
He's the Kanye
his
of
stories.
Video game developers.
Oh my God. His stories are so unique that it distracts from the fact that he uses white people mostly. Just saying, guys.
I was actually thinking that as I said.
But you know what? I feel like if someone were to ask him that question, and I could be wrong, but I feel like he would have the confidence to say something kind of like this. Like, I'm not here to meet everyone else's expectations. I want to make what I want to make. And this is what I want to make. And that's actually a legit answer for anybody. from any race or culture or religion. Like if someone says, "Why didn't you do this thing?" You could be like, "This is what I wanted to make.
This is why I love creating music, because nobody's gonna be like, why didn't you put a black person in that song?
Why didn't you write
That's how
about
that works.
And
Why
then
were you
tomorrow Jeff's
only
gonna message
talking
us and be like,
about
"Guys, I
white
wrote a new
mother-"
song called A Black Guy." And
Which then is racist because you aren't actually black.
Exactly.
If you
Exactly.
think about
Music's
it.
just a different space that I just
Oh my
love.
gosh.
That you can just
I'm
kind
with
of you're kind of left to create what you want, and I love that about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's trash, you know.
Yeah. So I think that's it for our headlines, and actually that does wrap it up for our show. And
Not cut the show short though.
we did not cut the. That's okay. We had a good convo. I enjoyed this. This was
Yeah.
fun. This was good.
Yeah, this is great.
Make sure you go check out Dan's streaming stuff on Twitch at the Dapper Chocobo. Go check
Dapper
that out.
_ Chocobo, Tim. _
If you just search for Dapper Chocobo, it won't show up.
I mean, probably. I don't know.
Are there a lot of Dapper Chocobos out there?
I need you to identify me as Dapper _ Chocobo, please.
All right. Make sure you go to Rapper Chocobo. I'm gonna keep saying it wrong from now on.
Wrap that Chocobo up.
Wrap that Chocobo.
Wrap chocolate
Sounds
bars.
extremely sexy, and I like it.
Listen, I'm dapper as hell, man. I
Wrap
dress
the
up.
Chocobo means something totally different.
I literally dress up in my suit, my black suit, and I put on a goddamn top hat. Look at this shit. Look at this.
Language. We
Look
don't
at this.
cut
Look at
here.
This thing.
Yeah,
I
look
throw
at
on
that.
this.
Yeah,
Look at this. My
Okay.
Birdman.
Yep,
Guys,
this
by the
is
way-
where we have to end the show.
I just had an idea. We should launch an e-commerce store. One of our products are Final Fantasy themed condoms, and it says "Wrap that Chocobo."
That's
Anybody?
actually
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a great idea.
That's actually a great idea.
Oh, like chocobo, like dick. Got it.
Yep.
Thanks,
Yep.
Jeff.
Sorry.
Language.
Yeah. Cox.
Thanks,
Cox.
Jeff. Oh, you mean like pee-pee?
Oh, you mean like a wiener?
All right. On that super mature note, as we always
very
end on, we're out of here. Thanks for listening. See ya.